4, 3, 2, and 1. Ka-ching!
There we go. Welcome back. I've got no face on the screen this week, but we are back with a new and improved viz for Sage's face. And we're going to be here for another Sage on Stage where we're going to debate silly and less silly, more important topics. So welcome back. A bit of an idea of the show. I'm Harry. I work on talking things with people and stuff. And what Sage is a AI that the intent is that she will help us formulate our thoughts and to have meaningful disagreements with one another, to conduct disagreements more effectively is the overall goal. So I have a happy band of arguers who like turning up and testing her mettle. And yeah, what's been happening in the world this week? How is everybody? First of all, a bit of a welcome. Say good day. Introduce yourself or not.
Good, eh?
G'day, mate. Can I just say something real quick? Because you all know I ain't got a lot of time. I'm only here to listen for the first 2 hours, and hopefully I can get in at the end. Thank you.
Perfect. We'll look forward to it, Rob.
It's Rob. Yeah, by the way, it's Rob.
Writing.
His name is Rob, everybody.
He's Canadian.
Hey, Writing.
G'day, Magus. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, that's why I came in. I actually only came in to see you. To say
nice.
hello to you.
Oh, nice. Hello. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and post the links. I'll be back shortly.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. So it's good. You'll see that Sage has changed a bit since before. In that she now
Really?
Yeah, should do. If you follow along on the stream that I've got in Discord, I'm streaming online as well. But now the idea is she should be able to, ideally, judge debates as they happen, which is a little bit optimistic. In fact, there's something a little bit clunky going on right now. I might give her a quick restart, then we can get going. Let me do that. So things I was wondering about it that we can have a bit of a chat about today is what are the kind of the big topics on my mind that I thought would be worth discussing. One of them is just AI, UBI, the future of the workspace, the future of warfare, with this new thing looming over us. Fascinated by politics at the moment as well. US politics, foreign policy, all of the Trump stuff is always just a car crash. What else? What are some other things that people have interests in, or particularly what I'm fishing for at this stage? Is are there any topics that you would like to debate today? Because that's what we're going to be practicing, giving feedback to one another, having some practice debates. It could be about silly topics, about pineapple on pizza, or what I'm also fishing around for is anybody got any meaningful topics they really want to get into and debate today? Because I'll add you to the running list.
I mean, did anything happen that week?
Yeah, what's happened this past week?
When you're kind of a little bit in the summer hole or not?
So there's been another US-Canada trade fight. Wow. Okay, so the US proposed a 50% tariff on Canadian cars, trucks, and steel.
Sorry to steamroll you there a little bit, but there's a big contention about the lady that killed her children. And there's quite a debate online that says that she should be exonerated.
Yes, I've been seeing bits about this.
I stumbled over a debate.
Say again?
I stumbled over a debate. Is it like about this lady who killed their children, or is it like also about like this abortion debate with, I think, was it Texas, where like women develop like in America, Texas, more sepsis. Because they, with the new policies and laws of abortion, even like a how do you call it in English? Non-living, like baby, they are so afraid to abort in certain places that they just don't do it until it's life-threatening, and only then. But when you're waiting for a sepsis to get life-threatening,
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So that can go along with abortion as well. So the one you were talking about, who was that? Rob mentioned is the Lindsay Clancy, I think, which I've seen interesting. And then you're talking about, I guess, point on abortion and
Yeah, there was a group of people debating that there were like someone like that the doctors were right, and others thought the doctors were not. I think she had an infection shortly before it was a sepsis, and the doctor sent her home.
Wow. What, and then, but an abortion could have saved her, and then she died. Is that what you're saying?
No, she survived. Like then she came back to hospital when it was a sepsis.
Right.
And then they treated her. Well, sepsis is life-threatening.
Mm. Yeah, so that's
it was
an interesting.
Pretty close to turn into one.
So that's a good one. Awesome. So yeah, what else do we have? Yeah, we've got Lindsay Clancy one. Climate action is an interesting one. AI assistance, UBI, I find interesting as well. What about one to get us started? Because what we've done in the past.
Hey, Rob.
Who's two?
Rob, you might.
Go on.
Wanted to ask Rob if you're going to tell me about that case or debate.
Yeah, if you're on the mic, Rob, you can explain the Lindsay Clancy one, or I can do it if you want.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Eggshells. Like I said, for the next 2 hours, I'm kind of screwed. I just jump in when I kind of can throw a sentence or two. If you could explain the Clancy case, I don't have time, but I would love to jump later. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's
Okay,
wild. It's a story of sort of, it's not clear if it's postpartum depression or what, but it's his mum went and murdered her 3 children. So she had 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old. Not clear if it's postpartum depression or what, but she murdered them all, and then she attempted suicide by jumping from a second-story window and is paralyzed from the waist down. I don't know why I laughed at that. I just anyway. But the wild bit about it, so it's just a standard infanticide story where a mum's gone crazy and killed her kids. But for some reason, a staggering number of women online are coming up with all of these weird conspiracy theories that she, even though she's admitted that she killed her kids, they're like, no, she didn't kill them. It was the husband. It's all this like, double bluff nonsense. And it's actually the father. And so it's less a commentary, I think, on postpartum depression, but more on how cooked people can get at just hearing a tiny bit of a story and being like, nope, that's it. The police and prosecutors have it all wrong. It was in fact the husband. And it seems, like part of it might just be people want to blame the man rather than accept that the mum might have killed her own kids.
I can imagine that to be radical feminists. I remember in Germany around the early 2000s, they conducted a study in Berlin about violence of women.
Mm.
It was like, especially, they were like interviewing men, straight men, lesbian women, all kind of stuff.
Mm.
But they wanted to know like how violent are women. And the results were pretty shocking because I think 20% of the men in there experienced physical violence from their spouse, like or their
fiance,
the girlfriend, like fiancé, like throwing things and shit and all that stuff, and even 25% experienced psychological abuse. And do you know what feminists did?
Go on. What did they do?
They're gone wild. They ripped that apart, the whole study, and demanding that there's no follow-up study.
Yes, I think I know what you're talking about. It was like there was a woman who started the women's shelters, and she was sort of this no-nonsense, sort of hardcore, ye olde feminist. And she ran these battered women's shelters so that women had somewhere to go when they're with an abusive partner. And she said in some passing interview, the women are often more violent than the men. Many of these women are absolutely escaping a battered home. But when they got there, because they were interacting with other people and she could see them, she was saying, they're actually very violent. And then I think the study you're talking about was if you talk to couples and you say, has your partner been violent? You're looking for one-sided violence. So when it's only one person hitting the other and there's not retaliation or reciprocal violence. And what they found is if there is non-reciprocal violence, 70% of the time it will be the female who is committing the violent acts, where men are only 30% of the sort of one-sided violence cases. So it seems to suggest that while men are hitting women and probably doing a lot more damage, many of those cases are probably in relationships in which there is reciprocal violence.
I think the majority was they were asking the probants, which they found. I think they mainly relied on criminal data, so reported violence of women. And they were asking the victims, the men, how did they feel? Why they didn't? Did they fought back? And a majority were saying no, they were not fighting back because they were raised that way. You don't hit a woman, so they would just let them hit them and throw things at them.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Do we want to do one, open up a topic on that? So what we do often for the early rounds of the show is pick a topic and assign sides. So it's not necessarily a side you need to believe in, just one you need to defend for the purposes of a conversation to see what kind of a score you can get. So who wants to step up for this debate? We could go one with thinking around this topic, which is intimate partner violence. Males to blame versus women to blame. Who wants to take either side of that risky topic? Hope nobody plans on becoming president.
I don't think no one's going to join in that.
No one's going to join in that, right?
Especially
Fair enough.
It's the lack of data. It's the lack of data. There's not much around.
Yeah. So then let's go about it a different way. Why don't we do a simple one for an opening debate? And that is, you get a self-driving car, it's fully autonomous, and it crashes into a mother and child crossing the road. But you weren't holding the wheel at the time that happened. Who wants to take the side of the car manufacturer needs to be held liable? And who wants to take the side of the driver needs to be held liable?
I think the driver should be liable.
Right, we've got Magus for driver liable. Who wants to take car manufacturer liable?
I've only got a few minutes, but I'll take the car manufacturer. For 10,
Awesome.
please, Alex.
Fantastic. All right, so step up. Magus first, so you can go for the driver's responsible first. State your
I want to hear
case.
Red Cloud. I want to hear Red Cloud while he thinks the driver, the company, the producer is liable.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Did you ask me why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be legally defined that way. It's going to be. It's not at the moment. It isn't, but it will be legally. It'll be the car manufacturer, but we're not there yet. So soon it will be. Right now, you have to monitor it, and you have to be ready to take over.
But they're not going to make people that use their cars sign an exemption form so that they are exclusively liable for whatever happens? Pretty sure they will.
Well, it's the case right now for the car manufacturer because they've already got. I mean, Waymo. All right, that's all the time I had. I'm sorry, chaps. I got. Sorry about that, Eggsy.
I'll take up.
Go for it, Pinky.
Pinky.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, well, the way I would argue is I would say, in this case, the manufacturer, they are the ones that built the car. They built the system that's driving the car. And because they built that, the driver shouldn't be held accountable because they weren't doing anything. So I think the manufacturer should be held accountable.
In my case, I got just a feeling that the driver is responsible, since the driver is always responsible. Especially the driver should use a self-determining or driving automatic of a car not as safe to drive or not as always perfect. He has to like with AI. When you use AI, on the bottom is always you have to check the information. It can be wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the same with like cars, and the driver isn't responsible like for grabbing the wheel or hitting the brake when something like that is going to occur.
Well, I would say, imagine to make an analogy, I'm a car manufacturer and I manufacture a vehicle and it has a faulty brake line in it that's known to, like in testing, it was shown to be defective. So I release this car out and a person's driving the car. They go to use the brakes go out and they hit a family, hit a mother and their daughter, right? Very clearly, the driver was using a product that was defective. They were using it in the way that it was intended, and therefore the manufacturer should be held responsible. And I don't, even if the car manufacturer.
In that case, I actually agree. Because it leads to a technical defect, but the other one is a defect you can prevent by intervening.
But it's also false.
When your brake is not working, you can do whatever you want. You won't stop the car. But when you just have a driving assistant who takes over driving from time to time, you still need to be like caution of the street and everything around you, so you can like break into the driving assistant if the driving assistant is doing bullshit.
No.
Well, let's say
you know why I want to intervene here, because they literally these cars are being advertised specifically with that people don't have to do that they can do another work or they can have a little bit of sleep. Yeah. So they explicitly advertise for the driver to not have to do that right now. Just saying.
Yeah, and I would say
in that case, I have to agree.
We might be able to like tease this apart a little bit and say maybe there are some situations where, like, let's say the person's in the car, they're staring, and this car malfunctions, and the car's like beeping at them saying, "Hey, something's wrong. The auto drive system is having issues. Please take the wheel." Or right, something like that. And then the driver fails to do that, and then the driver just sits there and watches their car crash into a person. Well, I think the driver would be liable in that situation. But I do agree with Arwen that if the product is designed to be driven without assistance, then the manufacturer should be held liable for that.
Well, when you say they advertise, it's exactly that way. Then I agree with you.
They do. That's like the entire
point is just, for me, it's probably, I don't know. I mean, from my perspective, it's just, I grew up in Germany, and we are kind of like raised a bit different and raised a bit like when it comes to driving. When we go to driving school, it's hammered into our heads, like even stuff like you have to expect on the street that other drivers are not following the rules. You have to expect the stupidity of other drivers.
Yeah, I would say if a car manufacturer is going to put a product on the road that is going to drive unassisted, it should be able to also, like a person would be held liable to work around other drivers. The car manufacturer technology should also be required to do that.
Yeah, then I agree. But when it's a driving assistant, when it's only an assistant and not an autonomous driver system, then like I think the driver should be liable.
Well, it's not park assist. It's not brake warnings. No. These cars are being specifically sold with advertisement to be completely and totally autonomous. That's literally the selling of it. It's the number one thing about them that the claim that they're using to sell the car as a product. Yeah.
It sounds like
There's
Magus
no
is
small letters in the advertisement saying like, "Oh yeah, you actually have to pay really good control because it could just crash." No.
well. That's
They're not doing
interesting. That is kind of where Tesla's at now. Like, yeah, I think you're right, Arwen, because the discussion we were framing was, let's say the car is being sold as autonomous. And what did they call it in the Tesla? Full self-driving, I think it was. And the idea being you just had to keep touching the wheel. But there are
Fully
a couple
autonomous.
of examples. One where it just didn't see a divider. The divider was a bit too road-colored. And it just killed the driver of the car at like 70 miles an hour, straight into a concrete pillar.
Of course, it's madness. It's absolute insanity to even do this, but that's the selling point.
Mm.
Full
Well,
autonomy, self-driving. That's the wholesale.
I sort of want
But
to
then
switch
it's the
sides.
problem, not the system. Then it's the problem how they sell it to people.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was before I was going to university and I made my high school diploma, I made my biology thing as a presentation to get my grade there for my high school diploma. And I got as a study field, I got brain enhancement, especially illegal brain enhancement.
Mm.
There was a pretty good example. They were producing a drug in America called modafinil.
Oh, I just took a pill.
And
I
this
love that.
drug was the drug was meant to originally to treat people with narcolepsis. You know those people who just fall asleep
Yeah.
during day? Yes. So it kept you awake. But that's not how they propagate it. In a commercial, they actually propagated it for students to stay awake so they can learn. And that came somewhat out. Someone sued and they won because they were making false advertisement for a drug that was not its purpose.
Yeah, it's that thing of, yeah, are people using things outside the directed usage is what you're getting at there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like or false advertisement. When I know as a car manufacturer that the system is not 100%, then advertising it as full automatic driving without like putting in that drivers have to take precaution if the system fails, then I'm liable. Yes, then I'm liable. Then I'm completely on your side. When they advertise it like that, then the manufacturer is liable.
Yeah.
Eggs, I sort of want to switch. Is it possible to like switch which side of the argument?
Absolutely, yeah.
The angle I sort of want to take is to say that fully autonomous cars have a proven track record of causing less accidents. So there are accidents that cause damage or kill people. But what I would contend is that the harm that they do as overall to society, that a higher adoption of these autonomous cars would produce less overall accidents and less death. And I think it would be a mistake to punish the manufacturers for that, for the few mistakes that do happen, because they contribute to a greater good.
I like
now,
that.
I'm not
So
saying I wouldn't hold the
Things
driver
happen.
accountable. I'm saying I think it's a mistake to punish either of them.
What? That makes no sense.
Well, because it's so the point I think that Pinky's making is like, because it brings up an interesting ethical or kind of psychological question, which is if your overall, it's very similar to the gun control debate actually. If your overall chance of dying in a car crash is down 100-fold, but if you are in a car crash, it will have nothing. There'll be nothing you can do to avoid it, and nothing you can do is going to get you into it. So you take away the autonomy somebody might have, because everybody likes to think, oh no, I would have hit the brake, and then I would have done a bit of this, and then I would have done a bit of that, and I could have avoided it. And Isn't that the point you're making, Pinky? That like sort of essentially, if the overall risk profile is lower, then we don't need to blame anybody. We can look at the rare accidents that do occur as like almost like this is a sign we're winning.
This is what I would say. I would say if barring like some extreme negligence, like if you could prove that the manufacturer was negligent. So I'm talking about non-negligent. I would treat it like vaccine damage cases where you say, okay, as a public, we agree this is better overall, and there's going to be some amount of harm done, and so we're going to essentially set aside funds where we address people who are harmed by this technology.
Yeah.
To save manufacturers so that they still will be willing to produce this. Because if you go to sue the manufacturers, eventually what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, we're just not going to do this. It's too risky for us. And then you're going to have more deaths and more accidents on the road.
Yeah. Love it. I think it's a really strong point. And I want to, who started off as the promoter of this point? Pinky Pinky was manufacturer. That's right. Magus switched over. Look at this. It's flipped. It's done the right thing. So it had Magus.
I switched over under the circumstance that a company is advertising it wrongly as a system that's 100% safe.
Yeah.
Because then it's a false advertisement, and the false advertisement leads for me clearly to liability because they're lying under precaution that someone got hurt.
And that is exactly what the map has also assessed to be the most valuable point. For some reason, Pinky only gets one note in this crux, despite there's something going on there. I'll fix that. But yeah, it's picked Arwen's point that it matters so much about the advertising because that's the perception that it gives to the people who are purchasing the product. So nice work. Team manufacturer is to blame. That's a good starting debate. Now, what we do after this, and I've got to make this really clear for the first round because otherwise it's not clear. What we want to do is pull back from the content. So we no longer give a toss about liability of manufacturers, but we might still have to discuss it. Where we want to talk about overall how that debate, if you could call it that, it was kind of a fun round and a discussion. How was that? Who made good points? How did their points land? What's your feedback to the interlocutors? So this is more asking the peanut gallery, or you can give feedback to yourself, but we're not talking anymore about the actual legality of who we blame in a car crash. We're talking about how the speakers spoke about it.
I think Arwen's point was strong.
Yeah, me too. Say that again. Sorry, Pinky.
I think Arwen's point that it graded high. I think that is a very, very strong point, because you can't sell a product and say, "Hey, using this product, you can do X," and then be like, "Oh, just kidding. You're liable for doing what we said."
Yeah, it's slightly similar when I looked into those because Australia is an absolute nanny state, so it's very difficult to get an electric bicycle or one wheel or anything over here. They're technically illegal, and but they're regularly advertised with a guy whizzing down the road. And, you'll get to work so quickly, provided you get to work on private property. Yeah, I agree. I think the stonking point there was Arwen. Particularly, one of the things I'm trying to gear this scoring towards, that this is nailed, is trying to go the economy of words, which I'm not very good at. If you say less and land a really big point, that's worth more. I think you did that really well, Arwen. You didn't say a lot, but it took the cake. All right, good opening topic.
Straight to the core.
What about a fun one now for who wants to defend? What about the age of the Earth? Me.
Oh God,
billions of years old.
No takers.
No takers. Well, Renee can do it's quite old. You don't need to agree with the position. I need to keep making that clear. For these opening ones, we just want to look at the.
What was the topic? Sorry.
Age of the Earth, young versus old.
The Earth is clearly young.
Okay, It's Issa versus Renee, and then we'll try and keep this time the peanut gallery out of it. We'll flip back and forth between that as a style. But yeah, who wants to make an opening topic about the age of the Earth?
I would say that the age of the Earth, it's old. It's around 4.5 billion years. and it's cooperated by different fields of science. You can look in astronomy and see that we see billions of years, meaning that it took billions of years for the light to get here. You can look at zircon crystals and date them, and you can get an age from that. And then you can also look at the stratigraphic layer, and you can see like how these layers formed over time. And it even gets all the way towards the continents, the current locations. So I think there is a preponderance of evidence that says that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Well, I would just say that I think modern science has led us into the realm of simulation theory. And therefore, I think the notion of billions of years is some kind of coping mechanism necessary to be able to deal with the instantaneous existence of the simulation.
I would
And
argue
I think that
300 years old because that's the last reset, and we don't really know how it all emerged after that. We don't even
Let's-
know like how some of these old people left. So I would say 300 years, but I'm not actually doing the debate. Just
Yeah, we'll get
give away.
we'll jump to that in just a bit. Yeah, we'll let Renee and Isa keep going, and then we'll go for the discussion after, if that's okay, Owen.
Well, even within simulation theory, the evidence that the simulation gives us says the Earth is older. Why is that the case? Like, I don't know if, like in Minecraft, if you break down like a rock, it'll tell you the time the coder built that specific thing. You know what I mean? But like, what we have is the ability to take these elements and break them down and get dates that show very long periods of time.
Well, again, I think the idea of the millions of years theory is almost like it's like it forces the backdrop so that it makes it inconsequential in some way, so that it makes it seem as though millions of years are possible, and that and that you're just a byproduct of this evolutionary sequence of events. When in reality, the simulation requires that you believe that in order for it to actually function. So the simulation's reality is distinct from the creation's perception of reality, or even ability to assess the reality. So the backdrop of millions of years is almost essential in order for the mechanism of mankind, which is just an aspect of the simulation, to give it some context, so that it will fulfill the role of the simulation. I think that this is what science is leading us to, because we have evidence of that in the sense that we're looking at almost magical feats of science that really are unexplained to the primitive mind. Even today, like, we don't even know how they make, or well, we know, but it's almost magical, these concepts that we're dealing with. I don't know if we're really ready to embrace the simulation, or if the simulation would allow you to know it's a simulation.
That's very dark city of you. Like everything you just said is very dark city.
But with what? So let's just say this, right? Let's just say you need billions of times to conform to this paradigm.
Or rather, mankind needs it.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Collective view. But what paradigm is conformed to when the claim of the Earth is young is made and the rejection of the evidence that's been presented? Like, what paradigm? Like what is that supporting?
What is the length of time supporting? What do you mean, like?
So I say it's old, and you say that we need time for evolution and all these other things and stuff, which is true. So
I'm saying that those are figments. I'm saying those things are figments of your imagination.
Okay, but so my question.
I can add
really
a proof
quick
for
though.
you, Isa. Polonium rings. Polonium rings in mountains. It couldn't have been so long.
So, but my question is, it's why does like for the old Earth, time gives you the outputs that we say we see today. What does a relative short time give you for your paradigm?
Well, no, the relative short time wouldn't be necessarily to my experience, but like from what what science is kind of leading us to is this multi-dimensional, potential of a simulation theory. And in the simulation, it could be instantaneous. It's like if you were to load up something on the computer, to you, it's instantaneous. Although to the characters involved of what's in the computer, it's as though that they've been there for millions of years. They've got a backstory. You know what I mean? But they've really just instantaneously been created with such notions in their head. In order to achieve what is the goal of the simulation.
And I get that, what you're saying, right? Potentially being simulation. But what I'm saying is, even within the simulation, the evidence says that these objects are old. The Earth, the universe, the sun. It's like that's what the simulation is saying. So even if this is your counter argument towards like the age of the Earth and all the data, the simulation is saying, hey, you look at this rock, you look at this astronomical event, you look at these things, and it says that the Earth is way older than any other paradigm. But like I said, I kind of want to, like you said, like you're not really answering the question though. Like if what paradigm is supported with a young Earth?
Well, I would say the rock is just the rock. The story that you've put to it is like inconsequential in relationship to the actual simulation. But like I think it suits mankind best for some reason to consider that it's millions of years old. That's like, there really is no evidence or no real rock solid proof of that, pardon the pun. But like the idea that there is no proof of it, it's just therein is a rock. Your stories about, and even what you've alluded, what the simulation has given you, and you've inferred that there's all this history to it. That is just something that's in the concept of the mind of man, but because the rock's just been created as quick as you have.
And that's what I'm saying. So like in that creation moment, from what we can extrapolate, it says it's old. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right,
just
but
like,
the evidence doesn't really confirm that. It can be inferred that that's the case, but it doesn't confirm it.
but
Correct.
I that's a bit. So the evidence does confirm it and infer it. It infers it from the evidence, I guess, though. But it confirms.
Well, take like carbon dating and stuff. Right? Like they can only go back so far.
That's what's
But yet
carbon.
they'll still tell you that millions of years ago.
But they use
this is
other
what-
elements. So they'll use other elements for longer dated time.
Well, I mean, you could propose that,
Maybe.
like they're
No, that's what
interesting
they
theories.
do. You have plutonium to lead, argon. Like there's different elements that you use for different periods of time. But it's based
Right, but
upon the
those
same
observations.
body of science.
Well,
That's
I
only
guess what I'm saying is like it doesn't confirm it; it infers it. And I think that if the universe be a simulation, it's somehow I can accept that you're saying that like, well, we're reading that in the simulation this is millions of years old, but in reality, what I'm trying to say is that all of that's a myth in relationship to the reality of there actually being a simulation. So, although you're trying to justify the science within the simulation, in reality, it would have just been a new, it could have been very new. So therefore you could have a new Earth theory, but it's just because it's projecting like it's got that history to it that you're going to accept, that mythos that you're going to accept to it. It doesn't mean that actually happened, and it doesn't mean that it's anything but just a simulation.
And
There's physical
okay.
contradictions.
And what I'm saying is that within that, like I said, like, okay, so My question I'm posing to you, within this simulation, the answer that the stuff is billions of years old is due, it answers a lot of questions. What questions are answered by it being a short period of time for the age of the Earth?
Well, when there's
For-
polonium
Well, the
rings,
answer, well, no,
For
the
this
main answer was
simulation.
how new is the Earth, new or old? And if it was a part of a simulation that just existed and reboot, uploaded, then it's actually not very old. Despite your mythos about it being millions of years old within the simulation, it doesn't negate the fact that it would have just been rebooted. It would have been a young Earth.
What I'm saying is, it's like, so within the old Earth paradigm, time results with outcomes that are presented. That's within the simulation. I'm asking, within this simulation, what would a young Earth's age do for the model, for the outcome, for anything within? Because we, outside the simulation, we have no control, right?
I think it would give reason to believe that there was a creator of the simulation. So if you had let's say the young Earth concept within the simulation, if you were to infer that it was a young Earth based off of the same evidence or whatever, right? And you inferred it was a young Earth, you know what I mean? Then it would give you maybe impetus to think, wait a minute, this may be a simulation that has a creator. And what maybe, you know what I mean? So it might derive and it might instill purpose as opposed to the infinite vacuum of, we evolved from, monkey dust out of a fucking, or whatever.
I think we can pause it there because it's gone well. And I want to point out that the map has scored this in roughly the way I have. So we can hear final arguments, and then I want to show you the big thing I built. It's finally working. I think we've heard it. So, because, is the Earth billions of years old? We've got a text clipping problem there, but that bar looks nice, doesn't it? Anyway, so what the points were was Issa was saying it could be simulation theory, which is just a little bit like last Thursdayism or last Tuesdayism, whatever they call it. Like the idea that how can you know that the Earth wasn't made last Thursday? And it's Renee said radiometric dating, it will all do it. You said it could be simulated, and then Renee's response that gained all the mass is, even within the simulation, evidence says these objects are old. And what Hemorrhage points
it doesn't though.
For you. So that would be a different one to address. We could go there next. There was a question you hadn't answered. Maybe you have answered it, which is sort of what efficacy does this do? By saying simulation, why is then young necessary? Like sort of why? For me, it'd be a toss-up, right? Because you could make a simulation half-formed. That's what Red Dead Redemption
Wild topic, and it is a crazy stance, but that was a good comeback from, a good point from Renee too, by the way. So yeah,
it was good. It also liked your points. A young Earth would give a reason to believe there is a creator. I like that of the simulation. That's true. Yeah. For some reason, it's repeated that note.
I would say the simulation theory was very hard to argue against.
Yeah, I mean, I could take any avenue
while.
away from. Yeah. It is very easy to sidestep within simulation theory for sure.
Very hard. But it was a fun debate. Thank you. Does anybody have any? Arwen, I think you may have some points you want to speak on.
Yeah, get in there.
I'm a little disappointed because both of you really stayed in pure hypothetical. Nobody gave an actual specific clue except for me, and then Issa didn't use it.
What was your one? Remind us.
Polonium
well, I was
rings.
kind of negating.
Right, it's just popped up here.
The polonium ring, it doesn't form over millions of years. It's a ring because it has a very specific moment where it literally manifests and then reacts, and then it's done reacting.
That sounds awesome. Okay, well, this could be worth a whole separate. We could do a separate topic on it. So maybe you can take the positive, and whoever wants to step up, it might be Renee again, might be one of the other normies we've got on board. Tell us about the polonium rings, though, because I don't fully understand it. What is polonium's nuclear material? So is it like?
Yeah.
pinging off whatsies all the
The
time?
thing is, it's very radioactive and it degrades very rapidly.
Right.
Yeah. So there's polonium rings in certain places in mountains, and that proves that it could never have been gradually formed over millions of years, like gradually melted and re-solidified, because there could have been only one solidification moment, and that is the last time it happened. And the polonium rings manifested right there. Somehow they were there
awesome.
without reacting before all that time. And then, upon that moment, they started to radiate out and form the rings. After that point, it could not have been melted ever.
Okay,
Because
really
then
quick.
they wouldn't be there.
Can I throw a lifeline? Hey, Sage, what are polonium rings?
Sage made a note saying polonium rings are the first bit of physical evidence that's being addressed and nobody addressed it.
Okay.
That's so fun. God, it's
Polonium
working
halos
well.
are tiny
That's funny.
concentric damage rings in minerals caused by alpha particles emitted as polonium decays.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So tell us your case about it. So these polonium rings you're saying, Arwen, show us that the Earth is young. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it not necessarily, but it specifically addresses how it came to be, right? It disproves the gradual formation and of the Earth and all that.
Okay. Tell
The
us about that.
backdrop story about how Earth was created according to heliocentrism is impossible because of polonium rings being there.
I don't know. All right. I don't think so. The thing is, it's this, it's finding one thing that's contrary to the entire narrative. It's interesting. And these may be something that's contrary, but I'm pretty sure if there were people in here that knew about this, they could explain it to you still within the globe paradigm of the Earth reading.
I'm not the one who made this up. This is something that came from Kent Hovind over 20 years ago.
Okay, so that
creation argumentation, it is absolutely undefeated. He's brought that to like major universities, and there's nobody that's able to answer it. Nobody.
So I mean, it's not discrediting the source of this, but hearing the source of this, I am more confident in the statement that I made earlier than I am now.
Oh, cool.
What was the statement
he
you made
might
earlier?
have said some weird things, but I mean, he did go to the universities and all these
this is
people,
probably
and they were not able to counter the
let Alan
argument.
finish. Say again, Arwen.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter who Kent Hovind is. He might be a clown for all I care. But he was actually a globe believer, but he did argue this. Yeah. And nobody's been able to counter his argument since. And like he went up all the way, like to all the universities, the major ones, everything.
So,
like
I don't want to discredit Ken Hovind too much, but I would say that there is an element of truth that's there, but it's been misapplied to support his bias towards a young Earth.
What? Dude, that doesn't even address it.
There's probably an element of truth to what you're talking about with the polonium rings.
Yeah.
But I promise you, that it's been misinterpreted to support his bias. Yes.
No, you can't. Because
yes, I can.
It's polonium rings that it only happens that way. Yeah,
I get what
polonium
you're
doesn't
saying,
just, there's no phenomenon where suddenly polonium blips just come into being like, whoa, a freshly formed polonium piece just manifested out of nothing where it wasn't before, and oh, it's leaving polonium rings. No. Polonium doesn't just come out of nothing mid-simulation or whatever it is. Yeah,
nothing from
it's
nothing
there.
means nothing. It has to be
It's
something.
there and it reacts, and it has a certain speed. And if that gets heated or transformed or whatever, melted, then there's no more polonium rings. That dissipates. There's no more polonium and there's no more polonium rings. Yet there are polonium rings all over the place in mountains and everything.
So I would say that those rings,
it was there.
those rings haven't met the criteria to then transfer into this next form or whatever. Like I said, I don't know much about polonium rings. I do not. But I would promise you that there's an element of truth of what you're talking about the formation. But I'm highly certain that it's been it's been misunderstood and probably purposely so, coming from that source.
Yeah, I mean, the source has nothing to do with it, and if you can't be specific about what the misinterpretation could be, then it's basically a hand wave dismissal what you're doing right
So no,
now.
I said it.
I don't.
I said the event, like you said, they need to be heated, they need to be belted, or whatever. I would say that event hasn't happened yet. So that's what I said. It wasn't a handwave dismissal.
Age, can you please explain Arwen's point to me? Ah, now the profile pictures are showing. See, your profile pictures are there.
That's cool.
I looked it up real quick, so I can read this if you want.
Right? Yeah, go for it, please, Pinky.
All right, it says polonium is a highly radioactive element with a very short half-life. As it decays inside of minerals, it emits alpha particles that damage the surrounding crystal, leaving dark concentric spheres. Gentry argued that because these rings are found in granite without any trace of their long-lived parent element, which is uranium, the polonium must have been trapped in the rock immediately during creation, and therefore he concluded that Earth's basement granites have crystallized almost instantly rather than cooling over millions of years, implying a young Earth.
So because the ring
Yes.
is thin rather than the whole thing having the same amount of polonium,
Oh, and by the way, let me give an
there was suddenly a
alternative.
creation.
And there's no presence of uranium there with it.
What's the ring in though? Isn't it in rock?
It's in granite.
So if it's in granite, my understanding is this: if there's a ring that says, "Oh, this is a time capsule," like a tree ring, right? But a tree ring works because it's when you get it, it's got wood on the inside and outside of it. Is that what this is saying? It's like a tree ring aging something, saying there's a particularly high layer of polonium in this ring.
No, it's about
in the layer.
A ring. It's there. It's undisturbed. That means that a bunch of things could not have happened to that material. That is actually part of the claim of heliocentrism, the creation of Earth, right? How it gradually comes into being, gathering mass and being molten and having a planet struck it and all that shit, right? Yeah, that can't be. That can't have happened.
So we don't have yet another explanation, therefore creation.
No, there is a scientific explanation for it, which I could also read. But
basically, before you get to the scientific explanation, Pinky, first I don't quite understand what it's saying about, because if it's what are you saying? It's saying a particular creation event because polonium is what? What's the ring part?
Writing. I think I get it. The thing is, it's a certain element, an element that has an origin element who creates it, or like where it's come from. So now you have like say you have a single rock. There's this polonium. There's this element is inside there, but it lacks the original element where it should come from. Therefore, this how you gonna say that friendly? This mentally challenged man is concluding that this is automatically a proof for young Earth.
That was
no
a jab in the
explanation
middle
for him.
of your
young Earth.
I'd hate to hear what the non-kind version of that was.
So it sounds like something like, but it sounds. Yeah, Pinky, you've got it covered. You help me understand it.
I don't think I fully. I'm still reading.
Yeah. Well, I have an addendum to the concept that's you're not going to find anywhere because I literally just thought of it.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
I think I sort of get it.
But what it could also mean is that polonium rings could potentially, beyond our deeper understanding, actually manifest upon the moment of petrification. because we don't really know how that works, especially with really large bodies with complicated sets of minerals and everything. Like, we don't really understand petrification all that well. It could have been formed in an original petrification. That is another alternative. And that makes it more complicated because then it can be preceded by another form before that. But that's the only thing that I can think of that could explain how in a body suddenly polonium could manifest through spontaneous greater petrification. Just a
So
thought.
Okay,
I have no idea how it does it, but I would say that the samples that were found are old enough to have very, very small amounts of the parent isotope present.
Yes.
But Pinky, go ahead.
It said, okay, so basically polonium, the half-life is extremely short. It's like, it says it's minutes to microseconds. So the argument is that the polonium would have decayed away long before the slowly cooling magma could crystallize into granite. So the idea is the fact that we see it there without the parent isotope means that, and it would have, yeah, so basically just by seeing it there, it means that the granite was formed quickly rather than slowly. That's the argument.
Exactly.
The mainstream
That is the main
response. Okay, so that correctly represents your take on it. So basically, the rebuttal is just that where he found the halos, they occur along fractures. You know, like you can have old rock, and then you could have through seismic activity, you can have a younger, different sort of rock that gets thrust up or embedded in the middle of it. So what it looks like is a place that they're finding these polonium. Either they have, like what Renee said, they have the presence of uranium, or it's in these fractured or these fracture points, basically.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody. So you don't agree with that? You don't believe it, Steve?
Well, they don't have 1 ounce of evidence, but I'm agreeing with them.
Okay.
Just for the sake of argument, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I
if you
think
have
that's what I.
if
Okay, so
if you have evidence, I'll take a look at it.
polonium
ahead.
rings
Go
of
ahead.
granite. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Yeah.
thinks because so Pinky read out the thing from Ken Ham, and now it's got Pinky as a creationist a bit.
That's all right. I'll also stick there. I'll be the creationist.
Yeah. But it's got you nearly winning. It's got you. It does have you winning, actually. Yeah.
Now you invoked half-life.
Two biggest notes.
What do you got going on there?
4.5. That's a big note. 2.8 is already pretty big. Why is 4.5? Should be double the size. Yeah, go on.
Kind of those people are a little bit desperate today, writing. You know, it's kind of like in the past things were easier for those people. They said like, "Oh, sky is moving, God is there," and then we somewhat in history got up to the sky and we're looking like kind of over the clouds, and we didn't find God. We found more clouds, and
we're looking for.
We're looking for God is higher. God is higher.
We're looking for something right now. We're looking for half-life. You guys invoked half-life.
Mm-hmm.
What's that all about?
Well, the creationist side of this debate, which is me today, we did invoke half-life. Yes, the half-life of polonium proves that Earth is young.
What does that mean? I don't know what you mean when you say that. Pink.
Well, it's like the radioactive decay half-life.
Yeah, the
radioactive
no longer being polonium.
So objects will lose mass over time, and they will turn into different elements.
So now they're turning into different elements too. So you got half-life, which half-life is the carbon what do you call them that?
Carbon 14, you mean? I think it's carbon 14.
Decay. Yeah, you're talking about decay, right? Half-life? What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
radiometric decay. Yeah, radiometric decay.
Yeah, okay.
Learning that. That's a good learning. I shouldn't let people read out the other side's argument. Oh no, it just needs to recognize that's a steel man. That's it. That's it. It just needs to recognize. Oh, that's so much more work. Oh my God.
But I mean, what was the crux?
The crux was, do polonium radio halos in granite prove a young Earth? God, that's a well-written crux. And because Pinky read out polonium rings in granite with no uranium trace means the rock crystallized instantly during creation.
Oh, okay. Well, to rebut that, it's the fact that, like I said, the age of it, there's things that are detectable, and there's probably things that are detectable. I would say this. I would say Ken Ham, all the AIG, Ken Hovind, they will take a truth and then they will layer it with lie.
That's an ad hom.
Yeah.
Or genetic fallacy could be.
Oh yeah, genetic fallacy. Thank you.
Well, what is young Earth? What is that? 10,000? 20,000? How long is that?
10,000,
8,000.
whatever the Bible says.
The Bible. Oh, okay.
7,000.
That's the Bible.
I mean, the Bible is useful. She is not bad. Like, I use the Bible to crash spiders that use it as a door stopper. It does its job perfectly.
Well, but the thing is, it's even within the period of time you're talking about, these things would have decayed. But this one point of evidence does not disprove the preponderance of the other evidence that's showed. Things like ice layers, those go back millions of years. Things like tree rings go back, greater than the biblical age of the earth. Civilizations with China, written language basically for over 10,000 years. So at the end of the day, this one piece of evidence, which is explainable, this one piece of evidence does not disprove all of the other evidence that's laid on top.
So you're like long time ago, right? We've been around for a long time.
Yeah, I mean the
You
polonium
have,
rings don't
Steve.
prove that it's a long time ago. It just disproves the way that it supposedly happened, and it's integral
Well,
to the Earth story of heliocentrism that it is a gradual forming thing, and that can't have been because then those polonium rings wouldn't be there.
But
Yeah,
you
but that's
you
the
realize
thing.
what the
It could have happened 100,000 years ago. The
but do
point is,
you
it
realize, Arwen, with the
will
formation of the
manifest.
moon, there was
Dude,
another collision to where the Earth was formed again, essentially, after we were struck, and then the moon, and but the moon coalesced and formed the same fashion that the Earth did. But
yeah, sure.
that's
Except
reality.
there wouldn't be any polonium rings, though.
Why not?
I mean, we don't have yet,
Because they would
even
have
if you wouldn't
already
have yet an
dissipated. They would have
explanation.
already, dude, I'm answering. Yeah, because they would
Sorry.
have already formed, it would have already decayed. Then the thing hits, everything gets melted and shaken up and distorted and reforming and gradually solidifying again, and there would be no polonium rings because they would have already dissipated in the first formation. That's the point.
Okay, so like I said, I think there's been explanations given to why there's the finding of polonium, finding uranium in the objects and things like that. But the focus can now go to another evidence. Why do I mean you're going to say it's a hologram, so there's no point of asking that question. Why do continental rock layers line up across oceans? Same rock, same formations, but there's an ocean in between them today.
It doesn't address it.
Well, I would argue that's not necessarily an argument for an old Earth.
It's part of the paradigm of the evidence I purported earlier. about the time and the sequence, and I can give a mechanism for that event happening.
But you're presupposing an event.
I'm not presupposing anything. I am telling an outcome. I'm telling you an outcome that there are mountain ranges that line up in England and in the United States. Same rocks, same everything else, and now there's an ocean that separates it between them. There's also something called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that creates new crust. And at the rate that it does it, the oceans move around 1 inch a year. I'm sorry, the continents move around 1 inch a year. And that process started when those two continent plates were over that ridge. And over time, it's displaced them to this distance.
Yeah, but we don't know. We don't know if that movement has remained consistent over time. So maybe there was a time period where the continents moved much quicker, and now they move more slowly.
So there's no uniformity of nature in your model?
Well, I don't. I mean, I think it's
shift points suddenly. Things change around pretty suddenly, and like everything changes around. Land masses disappear, other land masses appear, and then it stabilizes again. And then we have a new phase. That's actually how it turns out to work.
I'm asking Pinky if within his model of this 10,000-year-old Earth, there's no uniformity of nature.
Not necessarily, because we weren't there to observe it, so we can't make claims about how fast it was moving. So yeah, I would say no, there's no uniformity of nature.
But based upon our current observations, we can make claims about our preponderance of evidence that we have now, right? Or wrong?
I mean, I think we could say we think the continents will move roughly the same as they do now. But I wouldn't rule out that they could move faster. Something could happen. They could move faster, I guess.
But the thing is, it's even within the paradigm of them moving faster, the result would be that based upon the current aspect of it, you know, if you have this event that has moved the continents faster than that, there would be evidences of that event as well. You wouldn't see a consistent ridge line at the Atlantic Ridge. You wouldn't see you wouldn't see the layers, basically like a tree ring, essentially. That form from this, the uniformity and the consistency of that does exist still. So, like the event that you speak of would be noted within this model, within the natural world. And it's not found. But what is found is, you know, a consistent movement over a vast period of time.
Well, I don't think. I mean, the measuring of the Earth's crust. I don't even think we knew about the idea that we had tectonic plates. That's a recent discovery, correct?
I would say recent, within the last 200 years.
Yeah, so that's a pretty small window to make big projections about what happened before.
That's a big chunk of time within your 10,000-year time frame. It'd be a small window if that was like 4.5 billion years. But within 10,000 years, it's a pretty substantial chunk.
Oh, it's so hard arguing this side.
Good on you. I think that's good. That's been good fun. Okay. So we can.
Oh, you're steel manning.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have gotten into the.
It was a heroic.
I shouldn't have gotten into the 10,000-year box. That was my mistake. I should have gone like not 4 billion. It's maybe it's a few 100,000.
Or just not be drawn on it. Just sort of go. All I'm doing is casting doubt at the thing we've all been told since we were kids. I don't need to pick an age.
Yeah, that's true. That's
true.
Pinky,
what drives me kind of nuts is that the whole argument is kind of, we don't understand it yet fully, therefore God. But if you would have went always with that, we would not talking about it now, because we wouldn't have computers, we wouldn't have internet, we wouldn't have a lot of shit.
Yeah, that's fair. But so, by the way, arguing this side of it, what I was instantly terrified of is because the whole argument, this whole thing about polonium is based on radiometric dating.
I was going there.
I feel like the best thing that like I wouldn't have been able to come back with is to say, oh well, if you accept radiometric dating, then let's go use radiometric dating, and then I don't know how I would have gotten out of that.
Yeah, I was gonna go there, but I wasn't. I was focusing on being able to pin you on the 10,000 year claim.
Yeah, you did well.
Oh, it was fun. Thank you.
The debate
I don't know if I
finally switched people to the right side, so it got Pinky and Arwen on the same side. Yeah, go on, Renee. What were you saying?
I was gonna say like I don't think I could have done the other side as well.
Yeah.
I get angry.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the trouble. That's why I think steel manning for the other side without going, oh, because I haven't been to school or something, without sort of throwing jabs at it, I think is such a valuable skill for so many reasons. Like just the other one I just started doing was in interpersonal disagreements, because I was, for a reason, having a few of those recently. And I was just like, oh, I should do that thing we practice on Discord. And I would just steel man them. And I'd be like, you're really upset because I said I'd call and I forgot, and that makes you feel like I don't care. And they look at you and they go, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So this, on a completely unrelated note, Pinky has nailed that steel man. Oh no, totally related note. He's nailed that. Look at the size of that win. I can't quite read the numbers
I got crushed.
Really got destroyed on the edge of the earth.
Oh my gosh. How did I lose that? Say, give me a breakdown.
You've got to zoom in so far to read your points. Fucking don't take that.
Did you ever listen to Ken Hovard with the flood? Like that the great flood happened?
Yeah, that's a fun argument. I don't think we have any people that's going to stand behind that too firmly, though.
Yeah,
I was listening to that debate. He had that debate with First Amender. It was nuts.
Can you please give us a debate judgment, Sage?
Pinky destroyed Renee Zanzane.
Yeah. Let me just see what your score is. Yeah. Anyway, that was good. What did they do well? I think Pinky brought receipts.
Does it still score? Does it still score for keeping the topic? So like in this one, the more time we spend talking about polonium, then the more points would essentially go to that.
Oh no. So I had that. That was the original system, and Rini was like, "Hey, I think you're good to go to market. Stop tinkering with this. You're not doing anything." And I was like, "What about if I do?" Because in the first version, you could win a debate by just talking about anything. If you just stayed on topic, you won. And that actually, in my experience, tracked quite well with who was making a better argument, because the thing I noticed is that people skip away from the point. And so if all I looked for was the signal of, is that person skipping away from the point, you got a pretty accurate readout, which made this squiggly S-shaped one. I'm still thinking of making these ones squiggly S-shapes again. Whereas now it's a proper ledger system. So if you enter an argument and that argument isn't properly rebutted or addressed, it is this growing chasm in the other side's thing. We haven't seen any really big question ones, but sometimes you can have a question that's just like gaping, absolutely huge. We had one the other day,
why didn't it pick out Renee's? Because Renee did make points about other. He rattled, like tree rings and
tree rings. Go back to the biblical age.
Sage hates Renee.
Well, because that's a valid point. But so if he'd brought this up first, right? If that was the substance of the discussion, you'd said, "Yo, let's talk about polonium rings," you would have been punished. But this is essentially should be scored poorly. It's one of his higher scoring notes, so it's above 1. 1 is how they land, so it's grown almost to 2. Is a valid response, but it does not address polonium rings. So this does. This got a much bigger score at 2.5 because when he says one explainable piece of evidence doesn't disprove all the other evidence, that is a valid rebuttal to polonium itself, which is your core argument.
Yeah, so I feel like that rebuttal combined with the other ones should have, like, in my mind, it should have scored higher. You know what I mean? Because like he addressed the main, the young Earth had one real argument, which is polonium, that I feel like was mostly addressed, but there was no answer on the young Earth side for any of the other stuff he brought up.
Yeah, and so what generally you're trying to do with this, and it'll work longer. I cut these short a bit so we can get through a few in the show. Is essentially what you hopefully should soon be able to do. I've been working on this overnight. I don't know if it works yet. Is essentially promote a main topic where you say, I want to go to age of the Earth and bring up a new topic, which is tree rings. So that will park this crux, which would probably stay scored the way it is. And now you start a new one on tree rings. And then you might start a new one on distant galaxies or something.
I missed that. The whole crux of the debate was actually about polonium.
Yeah. So once this is polonium, it's been a really difficult balance because you can't just set that in the first 5 minutes and not readdress it, because the debate might meander, but it might evolve. And when it evolves to address a more important point or recognize what we're really discussing, it needs to change what's written up here, but it can't change it so much that the earlier discussion is now invalid, like it flips the score somehow because it's decided. So what you're trying to do is make a subcrux that might be about polonium. You go, fine, young Earth wins that because my major rebuttal to that is I've got other pieces of evidence. That's a small scoring point because he's only done very briefly on the tree rings. If he litigated the tree rings further, what happens is it makes a new crux. And then it goes, these two cruxes both speak independently to the age of the Earth. And then his job would be to stay in that tree crux, show that it's really valid. And then that entire crux molecule will be bigger, will dwarf this one. So this one will sort of move out of its way. And so what you're trying to do is say, okay, I might concede on this crux, but if I can get a more important crux somewhere else, it might defeat this without having to address the polonium rings. But otherwise, if you're in this crux, you've got to be addressing the polonium rings if you want points.
Got it. Okay. What were the other cruxes, out of curiosity?
The other cruxes it just started trying to make are, can we infer deep time rates of continental drift from a short observation window, or does the lack of uniformity of nature undermine that projection? And Rini said, if the continents move fast, there'd be evidence of that event, but what's found is consistent movement over a vast period of time. Your point in response was we weren't there to observe it. We can't project current rates onto the deep past, no uniformity of nature. So it just scored that one a pretty much a wash. Oh no, a slight win to Rini. And then a big win to Rini was, does continental drift require uniform rates over deep time, or could catastrophic acceleration fit a young Earth? And Rini won on that one. With current observation, is ridge spreading is all we have.
Nice. Cool.
Renee, does polonium actually contradict an old Earth?
No. Is she doing the post debate questions now?
Sage, can you do a debate judgment on that discussion about age of the Earth? Right, she'll do that. That'll take a minute, and then she'll just come back and tell us about it. That's gone really well. I like the discussion, and I was very excited that the mapping was working. So, it'll work.
Do you ever give Sage any bias or program it, or tell her what to ask?
No, like I give it a bias. I've got a few places in her programming that she has a bias, both for and against me. So one is, I say in any of your moderation decisions or the muting and that kind of, or calling out for bad behavior, you should be extra strict on me. And one specifically for using up too much talk time. And then for everything else, judgment-wise, I've done a lot of work to try to make it very fair. But ways I could introduce bias, to be honest, is I have a thing called Whisper, I think I call it. And that is when the board is constructing the argument, I have that there because sometimes, like in the last one, Pinky was on Young Earth side because he read out the Ken Ham quote that Arwen was talking about. And that's a little bit difficult for anybody to detect. I'll soon be able to do it with the profiles, where from Pinky's profile, she'll be like, oh, this is obviously a steel man. But I, with that whisper, can write in her back end and go, hey, Sage, Pinky's actually a old earther. He's just reading a Ken Ham quote. And then
Have you ever given her bias?
And flip me over.
Have you ever told her, like, hey, you need to ask this, or you're not considering this, to like kind of skew the results?
No, because I want to see how she works so I can fix it. And if I've got my thumb on the scales, I don't know how well it's working.
Okay, so you don't ever put an intrinsic bias, like with Earth, age, or anything?
No. Really strictly the opposite. So I have in there, that's what I'm saying, like other things that send the bias the other way is the intent. So protecting the underdog. So both in terms of talk time, behavior like calling people retards and stuff, but not reasoning. Somebody who's outnumbered gets a longer leash, a bit more grace than if two people are ganging up. She's going to be tougher on the two people in terms of their conduct. But nothing about you should favour the age. Oh, so I specifically say I don't want you to judge based on your LLM data. Like I want you to judge based solely on the conversation. So she doesn't ever go, but scientific evidence shows that vaccines work or something like that. I've forced her to not do that. But is there other bias in there? Probably.
Why not just be honest and say there is a bias against flat Earth and against the Bible?
I mean, there probably is just in LLMs in general.
Sure, yeah. But what this is doing is it's saying, here's a ledger of two arguments where there's, what are they? I try to remember the whole schema. So there is claim, support. So I might make a claim and then support that claim. Rebuttal. There is an attack that takes a variety of forms, which could be rebutted, it could fail, it could sort of neutralize, like they both end up the same size, or it could transfer mass. So the idea is you try to hit my note, and if you try to hit my big note and succeed, we go, and my one goes small and your one gets big. And that is just each time going, given the ledger of this discussion, given what they've been talking about polonium rings, and given the current discussion is about the cracks in granite, which of these points are making a better point? And so far I've found it to be pretty strong. It comes out on Flat Earth. It came out on Young Earth just now. And it went out on Flat Earth with Issa yesterday. He absolutely demolished somebody.
Well, do you remember, like in this result, like Pinky was taking the Young Earth side and he won the debate.
Yeah, smashed it.
I think, like if you do, like remember how like I wanted to call out and say, hey, lady, can you please tell us what this is, the polonium is?
Yeah.
I think that should take away from your wager unless you make that level of interaction actually worth something for the debate.
Say what you mean by that? I'm not following.
Almost like if I need to call to the LLM for help, unless that help actually like adds to substance of the debate, it should be a negative towards your score.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, because that's getting into what we're doing. So I've had the scoring system working overnight as well. But yeah, so you're sort of paying coins. You could call for a judgment. It's like you might appeal something in football. You can appeal for a judgment, but if it's not upheld, it costs you some of your coins, your points.
Yeah.
Does she ever look for evidence? I'm sorry, go ahead. Evidence.
Yeah, so there's now, one of those schemas I said, like supports rebuttal, all of that stuff. There is receipts, is what it's called. And so with a bit of like going into it, so in the last one she gave a really massive, Arwen got a massive win a few debates ago. Because it like put a note next to him being like, Arwen is literally the only person. Because we did a Flat Earth, we did a Young Earth debate, and Sage's criticism, Issa crushed. Oh no, how did it go? Renee crushed Issa, and then Arwen brought up polonium, and she was like, finally somebody bringing up some evidence. So you have a void waiting for receipts, and then receipts paid gets a score counted.
So it's not even steered towards the weakness of the argument of the other debate.
What do you mean?
To like kind of like notice. I mean, the polonium one is a very interesting phenomenon. You know what I mean? And to kind of like steered towards that, or I think yeah, Arwen came in and started talking about it. Sorry.
Yeah, Arwen mentioned partway through the conversation, well, there's good evidence. Why don't we talk about the evidence, polonium rings? And then by the end, we were wrapping up and a sage note popped up being like, Arwen brought up polonium and nobody's addressed it. And then, what she's looking for is then those receipts paid, but still doesn't read websites that people give it. Because it's just such a big security concern. If anybody can dump a link and the bot might be dumb enough to follow it, that could give them access to my computer.
Yeah.
It's a real risk.
Is the debate over? Like, are we done? Is this event
we're just
over?
chatting now. We can start a new one.
That one is.
It's
Would you
all
like
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just interested in the discussion. I came in kind of late. Yeah. Anyway, the age
You
of
want
the
to
earth
start
is
a new
very
debate?
interesting. Well, I mean, obviously it's up to eggshells. I don't want to drag something on, but
So the
it's
way
up
it
to you
works
guys.
best is if we go from a sort of standing start, and I think this is also good because what we're trying to do is develop into a bit of a show, and that is from a standing start, we want to make a big point of doing opening arguments, because what will happen in these spaces is you guys will have had this debate 6 or 7 times before at least, and so people have a habit to sort of jump past steps 1 to 5 and get in at the point we were disagreeing on last time. And so what I would invite is for either Renee or, if you would like to, Taylor, to do it as a sort of opening case. So I think the age of the earth is blah, blah, blah years old, and here's why I think that, and here are the bits of evidence I'm going to bring, or however you want to do that. Also because it's super helpful, because then Sage goes, oh, this looks like the start of a debate. Bang, I'll label the crux that. Dup, 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 and it happens much more easily than the other way around, where she's like, oh, hang on, people are suddenly talking about this and seem like they're disagreeing. What's going on? And it takes her a while to catch up, as it does the audience. So what do you want to take?
Yeah, I mean, we can have a 10-minute discussion. I don't mind.
yeah.
So like I would take a negative position, like the claims that the age of the earth is old is, there's not, maybe like a position where there's not sound evidence for the earth being billions of years old. There's no valid, proof of that. Maybe I could take that position. Kind of like the negative position. Because I don't even claim to know the exact age of the earth. Like, I don't claim to know or be able to defend the exact age. Like I could take the negative, you know what I mean?
Sure. Well, look, it's turned a crux into that last discussion. Yep. Awesome. All right. So Rini, did you want to pick the position then for the age of the earth debate?
Let me pick the negative. I mean, do I want to make the claim of the age?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll make the claim that the age is 4.5 billion-ish years old. That would be the claim. Evidence behind that was this isn't fair. I've been doing this for like 30 minutes, but
oh, it's fine. Look, it's all good. Like, you don't have to like.
No. What I'm saying is I'd rather debate something else that I haven't been talking about. Like, we could do something else like evolution, which includes age of the earth.
Well, it's up to you. I do want to hear like your best evidence for the age of the earth being 4.5 billion years old or whatever. 4.6.
I would say the best evidence is just the fact that we can see billions of years. We can look out and we can see in like just how light works. It would take billions of years for the light to get to us.
Well, then you have to establish the distance of the stars.
Huh?
You'd have to, if you're saying it takes billions of years for light to get to us, and the stars are right, looking at starlight, right? You'd have to establish that stars are that far away to where it would take that long to see them.
So we've established that the sun is 93 million miles away, and it takes I think it's like 8 minutes for the light to get here. So we have done that on a micro level to show that it takes
On a
time for light to
micro
get here.
level?
Uh-huh.
That'd be macro.
Not that I've
No,
seen.
compared to the universe, it's very micro. 93 million miles compared to the
Okay,
universe.
so now we're doing a claim stacking where the Earth is old because the stars are far. The stars are far because the sun is this far. So we're doing a lot of claim stacking without
light
evidence.
So
and light
light
having a speed. That's
light
also
moves.
something that was derived from this presupposition.
Light moves at a certain speed from the star that we have 93 million miles away to where for an optical observation, like to observe something, we need to have the light. So we make the same extrapolation.
So where's the basis? Like, are we going to start by proving how far the sun is? Is that going to be the basis of the age of the Earth proof?
No. But the I said you can look out and see a lot of light years, and I'm saying this is what a light year is, and this is not how we establish what it is, but this is one proof of light moving from a star locally. So there's other proofs for the age of the Earth. That's just one. That's the easiest one.
That is not the easiest one, because then you have to establish the distance of the stars and the distance of the sun. So how do we know the distance of the
And the
sun?
speed of light. Don't forget,
All
it's
those
a
things-
triangle of presuppositions.
How do we know the
let's let
sun
Taylor
is?
and
not
Okay, how do you
presupposition.
know the sun is 93 million miles away?
Due to honestly, you can do it with math, but there's actually been like probes sent to it,
Probes?
and other, space probes.
Where's the data for that?
NASA or some other space agency across the world probably has it.
Do you have it?
Not offhand, because we're like you said, we're getting a bit esoteric about talking about the age of the Earth with this.
I know, right? I didn't bring us here, but so like, wait, we knew the distance of the sun before we sent probes, though, right?
We assumed it. We made a calculation due to our orbital, like the orbital time, like the time it takes to do the full orbit. But yes, we made calculations, but we confirmed it with sending things there. But for other ages, evidence of ages of the Earth, you have things like zircon crystals. You know what those are, Taylor? Or B kind?
Yeah, uranium lead.
These aren't really uranium lead; they're a bit different. But that is one aspect of radiometric dating. That one's used to find like more vast ages. But if you know of uranium lead, like we have amount of lead that's not elemental lead that had to have decayed from the parent element. I think it's like lead 13 or lead 14. I don't know which one it was offhand. But one's elemental, and the other one is the one that decays from the parent. And when you do the math, it adds up to billions of years of the half-life.
Okay, so you zirconium crystals. What other method of aging other than uranium lead do we use with zircon crystals?
That has its own method in itself.
What is it?
I forget offhand, but I know the outcome says because they're very special in the way they're formed. But the outcome says that they're 4.5 billion years, which is kind of the baseline. And the Earth may be a bit older than that, but that's kind of like the oldest thing that can be like determined.
Well, yeah, so it's using uranium lead dating, but to even use that, you have to assume millions of years to even use that. So there is
Do you know how that
concerns.
works a bit? Do you know how?
Do you know how it works?
Yeah, radiometric dating. Yeah, you find the amount of daughter isotope, and then you extrapolate backwards, and you can see how much time it would take for that daughter isotope to form in the object.
Okay. So yeah, so the zircon crystals are with uranium lead dating, and it millions of years for uranium to decay to lead. Essentially, the argument is we find lead there, so millions or billions of years must have passed.
Yeah, that's part of the argument, but yes.
What's the other part?
That's just a part of the overall argument for the age of the Earth.
What's the other part?
There's other things that show the age of the Earth, like the distances of the continents and things like that.
I didn't hear you.
There's other things like the distances of the continents and things like that, like compared to, like there are mountain ranges that align, like same rocks and everything, and they're in England and in America, and there's an ocean in between them. And from what you can do with the Atlantic Ridge and all that other stuff, you can show how the continents are slowly moving, in the way that we'll say it, apart from one another, due to the fact that that mountain range used to be one contiguous mountain range, but now it's separated by an ocean, by the Atlantic Ocean.
What is your best evidence? Because I'm trying to dive into like either the starlight, the zirconium, or now mountain ranges. Like, maybe we can pick
No,
the
there's
best
multiple.
argument.
No, there's multiple evidence. If you want, like with, I thought we were done with. You
I think
understood
on their
what
face though that like they're not, because for example, like you can't use uranium lead to like date a young Earth, so we couldn't use this method to differentiate between a young and old Earth, because you have to already assume millions of years to even use it.
But you can use carbon and show that the Earth is older than 6,000 to 10,000 years. So.
Yeah, but with carbon dating, like
No,
they
no.
have.
It's the same thing as radiometric dating. It's the same thing. It's the same aspect. The carbon decays over time, and you find the daughter isotope. It's the same thing. So if you want to make the claim that you can't use it for uranium lead, which I agree to, you can't use it due to the half-life, and you can use it due to the half-life with carbon with carbon radiometric dating.
But with the young Earth creation model, there's in the biblical story, there's a flood, and there's something called the reservoir effect, where this is published by Oxford, where things underwater appear older. Like whenever you carbon date things that have been exposed to water, they appear an older age, and it's called the reservoir effect. So if there was a worldwide flood, pre-flood things would appear older using carbon dating.
So that I think that has something to do with like how like you have marine life and something with their shells and stuff like that. But there's other methods of other isotopes that are isolated in them that you can get ages that conform to the same model. But what happens in regard with that is like they consume something, and yes, like for everything. That's why there's different methods for everything. Not everything is just one way, but within radiocarbon dating, it would be a problem for life, but it's not a problem for all the other things, like outside of that, and like there is contamination, there's things like that, but it's a very accurate thing, just like how argon and uranium can't be used for young Earth models. That's due to the half-life. The half-life of this is consistent. It's part of uniformity of nature, essentially, right? And it shows that the Earth is way older just within that paradigm that you can prove than 10,000 years.
But y'all in y'all's own model, there's no uniformity in nature, because there was a comet and a meteorite that wiped out life on Earth, most of it. So there's no uniformity in nature. So how can you invoke uniformity in nature?
I don't think you understand what uniformity in nature truly means, because
Yeah, it means that the way that things behave now are the same as they've always been. So if we can look at the rate at which isotopes decay, we can say, okay, well, this is how long it takes to decay. We can look at the amount of parent and daughter isotope, and then assume the age of the specimen by assuming that there's a uniform decay of rate decay.
Yes.
Okay,
That has
but
nothing to do
there's
with
no.
an asteroid coming and blowing up. Like that's what I'm saying. That's why I said you do know what it means, but I don't. So You know what it means, but
But
that has
the
nothing to do
Earth
with
is
fast
not
forward.
always how it's always been. That's the problem.
It's not about the
Even in
Earth
your own
being as it's
model,
always
there was
been.
like,
It's not about the Earth truly being as it's always been. In my example of the world moving, remember about the mountain ranges? That's me saying I know that the Earth hasn't been as it's always been, and I still made that there's a claim of the uniformity of nature, things like the laws of physics and stuff like that.
but
That's more.
cataclysmic events would like go against uniformity in nature, which
No, it
y'all
wouldn't.
invoke for your model.
It wouldn't. They would not go against uniformity of nature. They truly would not.
Well, I think that they would. I mean, like
They
for
would
example,
suck.
the
They
evolutionary
would suck for life.
timeline.
They would suck
Wait,
for
real
life.
quick. The evolutionary timeline, like for example, there would be a huge like break in the evolutionary timeline because like most of life was wiped out on Earth with this
Hmm.
asteroid impact and ice
Okay.
ages and stuff too
Well,
that
ice ages
happened.
don't do as much as the asteroid impacts, but
What it preceded, it followed after the asteroid.
yeah, because of it's like a nuclear. It's like the dust cloud that forms around it and it lowers temperatures and stuff like that. But that just what we're talking about. That's part of uniformity of nature, right? Light will reflect off of particles. You know what I mean? Like things like that. That's the uniform nature.
What?
What you're talking about would suck for life, but that's really not what uniformity of nature is.
Well, it's just assuming that the way things behave now is how it's always been. And so you
I
can
get
make
that.
inferences like the age by looking at how things behave now. But like for example, with the, with the okay, so we've addressed the starlight, right? Like the starlight, like we'd have to establish the distance to the stars. Um, and that goes
93
into a
million
whole
miles to
other
the
list of
sun.
inferences. Number
That's 93
two,
million miles to the sun, right? We talked about that.
yeah, but your evidence is unattainable, like with the probes.
What's unattainable about the evidence that was presented? What do you mean by that?
You only said NASA sent probes, and we don't have that evidence to even look
Other,
at.
other countries have sent probes too, but
Or
if we
whoever,
need,
if we don't have the evidence, I don't know what to even reference.
the
And
thing is, it's
then
like the thing is, Taylor, it's like in a debate about the age of the Earth, having to provide astrological papers, it's on me for I guess bringing up the claim, but it's well outside of the questioning that you've asked for one paper to be delivered to satisfy your to satiate your what you're asking for.
well, the probes didn't even give us a distance to the sun. The distance of the sun was calculated based on other models that were, assumed, like the size of the sun, obviously the shape of the earth and other things that would have to be assumed in there.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm
So
saying. So
the
like
probes
just
didn't
based
even
upon
really
your
get
questioning,
evidence.
we have to get into the shape of the Earth, spin of the Earth, other things like that. Not just if this probe went to this spot and has data that says I'm 93 million miles away. Be it by timing differentiation, it took this amount of time to get there, be it by actual anything. It just seems it's going to regress into another line of questioning instead of addressing any of the issues.
I haven't seen any unaddressable issues. And then what I was gonna talk about next was the uranium lead dating. So like so there's not a method to differentiate thousands and millions of years, like with radiometric dating or radioisotope dating, because like I said, you have to assume millions of years to use uranium lead, and there have been issues that have been brought up. Now there is debate about this, about okay, so whenever uranium breaks down to lead, basically helium is generated, and since helium will like leak out of crystals over time, like there should be essentially very little helium there in the presence, like in the zirconium crystals. But we find a large amount of helium with the uranium and lead present to show that this happened rapidly and rather recently than, millions or billions of years where the helium would have all leaked out. That's what
And
that's addressing the zirconium crystals and uranium lead dating.
there's lack of helium leakage due to the finding.
Yeah. So the retained helium as a remnant of the recent rapid production of the decay of uranium to lead.
But what if it wasn't recent and rapid?
Well, that's something you need to establish.
I think it's established by the dating of them not being recent at 4.5
There's
billion years.
you have to assume that from the get-go. So you have to assume that there is no lead present, that the uranium decayed the lead, and that happened at a uniform rate over time. So they expected to find little helium present because helium is very leaky in the crystals. It'll leak out over time, but they found large amounts to show that this decay of uranium to lead happened, more recent than billions of years ago, much more recent. So they didn't expect to find that much helium there, but they did.
Did they find? Okay. Um, um, I, I don't know if you're speaking against what I'm saying though a bit, right? You're saying that it takes a recent rapid thing to have the findings that is found.
Yeah,
Like
you wouldn't have found much helium present if this true decay happened millions or billions of years ago.
okay, so the presence of helium. I don't truly know why that would be the case. Why the presence of helium would be there. I would think probably that as these things break down, you have, like you said, the leakage, and like I said, over time. I don't think like through rock it like would like leak like it does like through like air, right? Or I mean, it does go through solids. I don't know. I'd have to look into that claim a bit deeper.
Yeah, I can
But
give you some papers on it.
what I'm finding, I guess, yeah, I'd have to look into that claim a bit deeper. But absence of that, what the science says, and I think they probably do address that somehow in some form. But what science says is that these things are 4.5 billion years old, and that's just that's one of other findings. Not just these argon crystals.
These aren't argon. This is zirconium.
Yeah, zirconium. Yeah.
Now, argon is like the method that's used for the youngest radioisotopic dating method, argon. But they actually did argon testing on recent young rocks from the Mount St. Helens explosion and found it to appear hundreds of thousands of years old. And they said it was because argon was basically, it was like leaked into the rock, and there was like environmental exposure, or that there was more argon in the daughter isotope than they would have imadgined in the young rock. So it appeared old, older than it should have.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why you use different radiometric dating techniques, right?
So you
Like if you
actually have
know
to. They have a
that.
way to mitigate this, though. Let me just finish with the argon, because there's a way that they use something called step heating to like try to get rid of the environmental argon that could mess with the dating. But you have to actually put in the assumed age to see like how much heating that you use to rid it from the rock present. So they have a step heating method that they'll use, but you have to assume that it is old and there could be environmental contamination to even use that method.
I get that, but if that method works, then the assumptions are correct, right?
The problem is you have to assume the age to test for the age. Same thing with
That's
uranium lead.
fine.
You have to assume millions of
But if
years or
you're
billions of years to
out
even
if your
test to see
outcome,
if millions or billions of years are present. So you have to
so
already put in implication. You're not just testing it from raw data.
well, you are right. You're taking
No, you're
this
not.
sample and you're saying that I need to make an adjustment. That adjustment will be calibrated to this level. If I still
Yeah.
get things that are outside that level of calibration, I should be worried about my results.
But that's the problem, is you have to like put in the assumed age to even like test for the age that like it's very biased.
That's
Like,
not. That's
and
not.
with
That's not actually
uranium
true.
lead, you cannot use uranium lead on, like, they will not use it on a young rock because they say, oh well, no
Yes.
uranium lead should be there. So you
Do
have
you
to
know
already
why?
assume the age to even do the method. Because
Why?
I'm
Why?
sure that you would
Why would
find
you
it
not?
there.
Why would you not use uranium lead on a young rock? It's
Because that's a good
that
question
was a
that I
rhetorical
wonder.
question. So the question
Okay,
answered, it's because of the half-life of uranium and lead. That's why.
exactly. But so you can test to see if the method is viable by using it on a young rock. So
No,
it should give you
that makes no
an
sense,
age
man.
of 0. There shouldn't be
Taylor,
any lead present.
that makes no sense. That makes no
Yeah,
sense.
what do you mean it makes no sense?
So if you have a young rock and there's no lead there, and you're using uranium lead to try to find these things, you wouldn't get the 0. But let's just say you use a young rock
You
that
should.
formed. But that's, do you know how like lead?
You should if you think that the method's viable for testing old rocks.
Do you
You
know how
should
lead
be able to
how do
use
you
this
think
dating
how do you
method
think
and
there's
effectively get his age of 0, because the minimum is 1,000,000 years that it
this is
takes
the
for
problem
uranium
of
to make
thinking
any
God that
isotopes.
this is the problem of thinking
I'm getting
God
cut
did
off.
everything. This is the problem of thinking God did everything. It's that you don't
What?
understand. This is the problem with thinking God did everything, is that you don't understand it takes a process for lead to form, for lead to be there. It's not just magically sprinkled in.
What does that have to do with God doing everything? Like, I want to finish what I was saying a second ago. It's just that the uranium lead, you have to assume millions of years to test for it. You should be able to test a young rock and say, okay, well, there is no lead. You should be able to show that these methods on their face, without putting in any pre-assumptions, should be able to give you the accurate age. So we should be able to take a Mount St. Helens rock and find no lead isotopes if the presence of lead isotopes indicates billions of years or millions of years.
Is there
But
lead
that's
in
not what we're
every rock,
finding.
Taylor? Is there lead in every rock?
Probably so. That's the thing. But they say with the presence of uranium and lead isotopes that's gonna, basically skew the results.
What if
You
there's
have to
not lead in
assume the
every
amount of
rock?
parent isotope.
What if there's not lead in every rock? Do you think that's
I
a
don't know. That's
possibility?
something that would need to be tested for. Like, we should be able to test a young rock and see that, there is no lead isotopes and we can accurately give the age. And in the same way, moving on to carbon dating, which you mentioned is used for younger aged rocks. For carbon dating, they say,
Younger
okay,
age
we're not going to
things.
use carbon dating for dinosaur bones because dinosaur bones are millions of years old, so we shouldn't find any carbon 14 present. But actually, people in the a woman, I can't remember her name, but she was at the University of San Diego in California. She basically did do carbon dating on dinosaur bones and found that there was carbon 14 present. And
Okay.
this is very like damning to the evidence that, that it's millions of years old because there shouldn't be any carbon 14.
Okay. If there were carbon 14 present, I would probably say contamination, but you wouldn't use carbon 14 because of the presumed age in which you found these things. Like a lot of fossils are found in like rivers and stuff in the early times because those things would dig them up for people essentially, right?
Man, I
So
love young rocks.
So
they're
you
good.
see,
Praise
Who are
young
you
okay,
rocks.
at,
so
Denmark?
I could say the same thing with carbon 12 is that, there's most of the time contamination from the environment would lead it to look older than younger, like with the reservoir effect I gave you the example of. Because carbon that's present, like, in the oceans and stuff is usually broken down to carbon 12 and will get replaced from environmental contamination and appear older. So I would say any external contamination would make it actually appear older. And second of
Okay.
all, they have methods. She used the same method that you use to date dinosaur bones that you use that she used for the carbon 14 dating. So basically you take a sample from inside the bone from like around the bone marrow area and then you send it off to get carbon dated. And they didn't know this was dinosaur bones. You basically just send it off if you without doing any pre-assumptions and programming it and you basically get the wrong age. Like in this example with the University of San Diego, finding carbon-14 in dinosaur bones when there shouldn't be any, and finding argon, like the argon isotope, in the Mount St. Helens rock when there shouldn't be any since it's a young rock.
Okay. I think, like I said, you have to use the proper dating tool and the dating method to find the result. You know, being generous with terms, those aren't dinosaur bones; those are actual rocks, right?
No, they were
Uh,
bones. You
they
have
were.
bone
Yes,
marrow, you
I
have
said
soft
that.
tissue.
There isn't soft tissue. No.
Yes,
Stop, please.
they have found soft tissue in J Ace. If he comes in here, he does research on it. They're trying to
I know
extract
what you're
DNA from
talking
it.
about, and they won't be able to do it. They know what they're talking about. Even the scientist herself that found the finding says this is not evidence of a young Earth.
Can you address the evidence? I don't even know what you're
The
referencing, but can you
scientist
address the evidence
herself,
itself?
the
Sounds like a statement of
scientist
denial.
herself says this is not evidence of a young Earth.
What's her
That's
Well,
name?
if a scientist says it, it must be right. It sounds
the
like a
person who
statement of
found it,
denial. He
Arwen.
knew
The person
the
who
What's
scientist
her
found
knew they
name?
were in trouble.
I don't know her name
We're debating,
offhand
Arwen. We're having a
Then how do
debate,
you know
Arwen.
she said this? Where are you getting
I
this
know we're
from?
having a debate.
because I know the topic and I'm aware of it, and I don't know her
Well,
name. I
I
know
can
it's a
send you
woman.
stuff on the
I think
findings.
it's
Can you send
something
me stuff on the
Brown.
quote?
I think it's something Brown. I think her something Brown. I think her last name is Brown.
Are you just
I
saying
don't.
this?
I'm trying to remember this, Taylor, because you asked me a question about this, and I said the scientist, because you can look this part of it up the same way I'd have to look up the papers. But you can look this
How
part
can
of
a
it up. The
scientist say
scientist herself, I know it's a woman, the scientist herself who found this says it is not evidence of a young Earth.
Am I
and how
supposed to
is that
just trust what
evidence
you're
of
saying on
anything?
face value? I mean, I'm not sure what to say. I can say things
You
too,
can
but
look
I
it
don't know
up
how much weight they
yourself.
hold.
You can look them up yourself.
Well, they actually use methods to like try to cope with the fact that there is soft tissue in dinosaur bone, which it should be replaced by sediment by now. The soft tissue, the carbon-14 should be broken down, but they actually find it present. So then they'll just use coping methods, just the same way that they did with the argon. Like, oh, well, this tested as an old rock, even though it's young. Oh, well, that's from contamination. Well, then how do we know the other ones aren't? How do we know the other ones aren't? The other readings that say the earth is old aren't from contamination. These are valid questions.
Well,
Okay,
it sounds like a
so
preemptive hand wave dismissal, is what it sounds like.
it's not a preemptive handling dismissal. This is the person who made the findings making a statement. I don't have it offhand. I
You
think her
didn't
last
hear
name
it.
is Brown.
Sir
Arlen,
Reed
instead
and
of
Dr. Mary Schweitzer.
interrupting, why don't you Google it?
Preemptive hand wave
I think you should
dismissal.
Google it,
Making
maybe.
the
I don't
hand
know.
wave dismissal before the
Okay.
argument's even made.
What's
I
what's
see.
the study? Just ask Sage for it.
Dr. Mary Schweitzer.
Schweitzer,
Dr. Mary Schweitzer. Thank you,
brown,
Taylor.
black,
There's been a few
urban.
times they found carbon-14 dinosaur bones. I can cite something on that
No,
because
we're
it's
talking
been
about
multiple times.
we're talking about the marrow. We're talking about the it's not marrow. We're talking about the tissue or the lead or the whatever that was found.
You talking about the soft
Dr. Barry
tissue?
Schweitzer. Dr. Barry Schweitzer.
Harry or Mary?
I think it's Barry.
Mary Schweitzer.
And was she the one that did carbon dating or soft tissue?
She's the one that found this. She's the one who found this. She's the one.
She's the
Which one?
paleontologist. The paleontologist.
That
Did she
found
find soft tissue or do the carbon
She's the
dating?
one that she did the. She's the one who found. She's the one who found it.
Found which one?
He said, right, so Dr. Mary Schweitzer did not say that soft tissue discoveries mean the Earth is young. Instead, she stated her findings do not change the established millions of years geologic age of the fossils.
So I was talking about the carbon dating, not the soft tissue.
So will you produce the paper for the carbon dating of that specific sample that proves the person who found it wrong? Could you produce that, please? Or Eggs, could you help her replicate it?
Yeah, and you can get the quote where the carbon dating one she said didn't prove young Earth.
I didn't say anything about okay.
I mean a young
Can
age of the
you
fossil,
produce the
whatever.
carbon dating finding? Or can you steer us towards it?
So she was at the Okay, Dr. Mary Schweitzer is actually in North Carolina State University. So this is a different person. Yeah, so okay, so she did the soft tissue. I was referencing the carbon-14 who did carbon dating on dinosaur bones.
Who did
So
that?
what's your rebuttal and the woman that you're citing is not the evidence I was mentioning.
So could you produce the evidence so we no longer have, because she found soft tissue and she says, as a
That's a different
scientist
point.
and a Christian, which is funny, that this does not say that this is a young, does not prove young Earth.
What people say really has no bearing on evidence. So I don't really hold that as a valid
So could you
rebuttal.
produce
'Cause I can find. I mean,
can you
people
produce
say
your evidence?
whatever. It's the evidence that
Can you,
counts.
can you
Yeah. So
I
produce
have
I'll
your
get
it.
the
evidence?
It's the
carbon
following
dating paper.
statement. It does prove it. See, I said it.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
said it too.
counter evidence.
I
What are
said
we
something.
after? We're after evidence from what's the carbon thing claim? If you give me enough information, I'll type words into Google. We'll find it.
Yeah. It was I think it was a woman at the University of San Diego who did carbon dating on dinosaur bones, and she was fired.
It sounds like my
Because you're
ignorance
not
is based
supposed to do
upon
carbon dating
not
on
remembering an
dinosaur bones.
actual finding. It sounds like my ignorance is upon not remembering an actual finding. It sounds like yours is basically an anecdotal story.
No, there was people who've done carbon dating on dinosaur bones.
Oh, I mean, because couldn't the fossil itself be anything, right? Couldn't it be anything that oozes through rock can make a fossil? So it could have carbon in it.
Normally
They say
sediment
he.
and
They
stuff is
say
not carbon based, it's silica based. Normally rocks will not be so life is carbon based. There could be
But so's
carbon
coal,
within
right? And
rocks,
coal's
but
dead now.
carbon-14. Normally the sediment's not gonna, you don't do carbon dating on rocks for a reason because
Mark
carbon.
Armitage,
Precisely.
California State University. In 2012, he found unfossilized soft tissues in a triceratops horn. Armitage, a young Earth creationist, told students this tissue, along with carbon dating logic, proved the dinosaur was only 4,000 years old. Is this who you're thinking of?
Potentially.
And then the
I'm
woman in the
looking at my
rumor is
notes to
Dr.
try to
Mary
find this.
Schweitzer, a prominent paleontologist. She famously discovered the first soft tissue in a T-Rex bone in 2005. Creationist groups circulated a false rumor that she was almost fired or pressured to retract her findings because they challenged the mirror. Yeah, I'm not finding
I do have
it.
a paper. I do have a paper on her being fired. It
Okay,
was
yeah, sure.
posted on
So
the
it
news.
was.
Yeah,
So it
I'm
was the
looking
person.
through my notes to get the
So the
citation.
claim that I brought up was the person you were talking about because you mentioned somebody
No.
being
It might not be. Taylor hasn't presented it.
No.
I've just Googled it, and those are the two people I can find. Mark Armitage, who already is a young Earth creationist, who claims to have found it in a triceratops horn, and the other one is Mary Schweitzer, yeah, as Keyless One said. Are you across this, Keyless One? Sounds like you might know the whole story.
how could this tissue survive?
It's not really soft tissue, though. It's been
I know.
fossilized. In order to get it
No,
soft,
it's not
they have to-
fossilized. No. All other fossils are. You're right. They're stone that's leached through or something. Hang on, Keyless One's going to know it, and you just unmuted. Go for it, Keyless.
No, I just remembered the name from reading the findings.
And these ones are like all other fossils are rock, right? They are mineral deposits. Whereas this is, we think, still the original dinosaur.
Yeah,
Is
they
that
found heme, they found nerves, they found collagen. I've looked at some samples too of dinosaur bones, and you basically look at collagen by doing like dual frequency light exposure, and then I don't know, I'm not an expert in it, but basically the collagen, the keratin, you basically get a special reflection off of it, and so they can confirm that it is collagen or keratin. Let me go ask Dan because he remembers. We recorded the interaction too. So they
Highly
found
altered.
collagen, keratin, and heme within dinosaur bones. And actually, Jay Ace, who's like a big evolution proponent, here that like I think he's on the server. He also works with soft tissue and dinosaur bones, and it's actually the tissue itself because he's trying to extract DNA from it. But they say that somehow it was preserved over all these years. But if that is true, then the idea that, the carbon or the base to the tissue breaks down over time would kind of be debunked, with because if you can still have soft tissue, which is made up of carbon, carbon base, if that doesn't break down over time, then what's your basis for carbon dating?
Well, it says here, research indicates that iron from degraded hemoglobin inside the blood acts as a natural preservative, creating chemical cross-links that protect proteins from decay.
Yep. See that so there is soft tissue. There's just different ways they're trying to explain it. Thank you.
Yeah.
What they're saying though is it's not soft tissue and like those are the actual structures though. That's there may have been other findings. I'm not really familiar with the 2012 one, but from the 2005 one, she is gone like on a crusade because she potentially had issues with her job, making the statement that like this does not say or is any evidence of there being a unearthed. If you want to go on that claim, it's the other guy, and I'm not familiar with who he is.
Mark Armitage.
Yeah.
Okay, and was he the one that was fired? I'm getting the things pulled up real quick. So basically, there's an article I'm going to drop you on somebody who was fired. California professor fired after finding soft tissue in dinosaur bone, and there was a report of radiocarbon dating from the sample from the horn of the dinosaur. Let me
So
see.
apparently he said they were fired for budget cuts, but he said it was due to religious discrimination because apparently somebody yelled, "We are not going to tolerate your religion in this department." It's funny.
Where are you reading that one?
CBS News is the source that's given it to the AI.
But they take these bones, they take these fossils, they dissolve them in acid basically, and they end up with this structure underneath it apparently. And certain fossils that are very rare.
So he was terminated in 2013 after publishing a report of soft tissue-like structures in Triceratops horn. He later sued CSUN, alleging discrimination based on young Earth creationist views. So yeah, I mean, I would understand if they said, "Oh, well, it's just for we fired you for budget cuts, not for publishing this paper just now." Like that, I would pretty much expect the university to respond with that. But it was after publishing a finding apparently that he was fired. I'm not sure the outcome of it though.
Is there results on the carbon dating he did on what he found? Are there results for that? And what does
Yeah,
this
I'm
say?
getting them. It takes a moment to try to find the links. I just gave you the name of somebody who was allegedly okay, religious motivation. So yeah, he was fired after publishing a finding, but then they say it was just actually due to funding and budget cuts, not because of the thing he just published. But that's up for I guess at the end of the day, it's whatever you believe to be true because they're going to say obviously they didn't fire someone based on religious views because that's illegal. But there
So
was a news
what
report on him being fired after publishing. Yeah.
in his
And I'm
results?
looking for the carbon 14 thing. You can still work on finding your citation as well.
What am I looking for my citation?
I guess nothing. I guess you don't have to provide anything. Maybe the probe data. The probe data with the determining the distance of the the distance of the sun with the probe was one of your initial claims. Maybe you can look for that data.
Okay, so we're in the main topic of age of the Earth, and this is about the distance to the sun being the age of the Earth. I've had to do a
That's what he brought up. Yeah.
So do you want to restate your position on it, Renee? And it sounds like Taylor's asking you for evidence.
So one of the observations I said about how do we know the distance, how do we know the age of the Earth was that, we have observations that are billions of light years away. she asks about like how do we know like light traveling from stars. I said that we have a star 93 million miles away, and we've clocked radio wave. I didn't say this, but we've clocked radio waves, we've clocked other methods of saying it, and we've determined that light I think it's 8 minutes to travel here from where it radiates out from the Earth, from the sun. That was part of my observation of why I think the Earth is old. I need to now show evidence that the sun is 93 million miles away. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. So you said that if the Earth were young, the light wouldn't reach the Earth, like based on the distance to stars. And I said, how do we know the distance to stars? And you said because the distance of the sun. I said, how do we know that? And you said because probe data. Remember? So I said, do you
I think
have
you
that
said
probe data?
quite a few, like the distance that it takes light to travel and the probe data. Wasn't there a few things?
Well, yeah. So whenever I said, how do we establish the distance to the stars? He basically referenced distance to the sun as an immediate response, which I didn't really understand, but it's fine. Then I said, okay, well, how do we establish that? And he said probe data and some math, which was kind of a vague statement. Didn't really describe the math exactly, but just math and probe data.
Hold on one second, please. So the probe data that comes from the Parker Solar Probe. Do you know what that one is?
Parker Solar Probe.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of it.
So it's a solar orbiter basically, but it gets the closest. It's really close to the sun. It gets there like only like a few million miles above the sun's surface. From that data, we can extrapolate the distance and the math. You can do geometry for that. So like, I don't want to ask that question. So like before radar, like you would make observations like the transit of Venus or like Mars, and you would like do like the math that would take these objects to move from these different distances, and then you can calculate them, and you can do the same thing with the sun. So that's the math of it. Those are the two ways that we've known for a very long time that the sun is very far away. And, specifically with the Parker Solar Probe, we've been able to say its specific distance with an object we sent there.
Does somebody have an interpretation of that? Eggshells, maybe?
What do you mean an interpretation of that? You're
Like,
asking for
what is the evidence he just stated? I don't know. It's kind of vague and scattered, in my opinion. I didn't really understand.
Oh, it made complete sense to me. You can do geometry to work out the transit of Venus. You can do bounce stuff. You can do lots of different things to come to a high degree of confidence that the sun is 93 million miles away, and then we can progress to the next bit. I don't think.
What is the math behind the transit of Venus, for example?
You just make a right angle triangle. You just go, here's at the position where I'm determining it's at right angles to the sun in sort of comparison to the Earth, and then distance to Venus should be roughly equal, or it should be the what do you call it? Opposite adjacent? I don't know. The long end of the right angle triangle, whereas your line to the sun should be the hypotenuse. I used to.
Yeah.
All those make sense to me. Are you
So
saying they don't
start
work?
with? Like, how would I do it? Like, how would I?
Same method if you wanted to. Are you asking me if I understand Renee's point, or whether I think he's answered your question, or what?
Yeah, I mean, just geometry and like methods, like the name of them isn't really particular. So the orbital scale, I'm looking up with the transit of Venus. Like, so Kepler's third law provides Venus's orbital radius as a fraction of about 0.723 AU. So this is one assumption you need to put into the transit of Venus calculations. So the known relative orbital scale and predictable Earth and Venus motion. So transit tracking, timing, and velocity. And let's see. So there are preemptive assumptions like how would we know the orbital scale and the size, to do the transit of Venus calculation?
That's
We
what I'm
have to
saying.
start with a
about
base
this.
axiom, like with a base, like actually demonstratable piece of evidence.
No,
Not
so that's what I'm saying. You asked for that for transit of Venus. I said there's a probe that's confirmed our etherical math. There's a physical thing that's done that, right? The
What was the probe that you
detail.
mentioned?
It's called the Parker Solar Probe.
Okay.
But the details of that math have been confirmed with something physical. So it's a bit nonsensical to get into the weeds of the math when there's something that's physically about 1 million miles away from the surface of the sun.
Where did Parker Solar Probe go?
To the sun. It orbits the sun.
So how long did it take to get there?
Don't know. I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
So,
Do we have some raw data from the probe?
Yeah, there probably is. Like I said, but definitely you can probably get it. It may be a bit sensitive, and it may have to be like behind paywalls. But I'm pretty sure that there's the ability to see that. I just know that. I mean, like I said, outside of the weeds of the math, which was kind of very well explained to you.
Kind of very well.
Mhm.
You didn't tell me that we needed to know the orbital relations though, and the proportions.
Okay. So what all I'm saying is that like there's a physical object that was there. So, but that's just one sub thing. Oh, I guess we did change the entire crux just to that. I think I don't remember.
Okay, so and I did drop a link. So as I mentioned earlier, according to the mainstream model, you should not do carbon dating on dinosaur bones. Like I haven't seen any mainstream model do carbon dating on dinosaur bones, but I did find young Earth creationists who have sent
I
off
wouldn't.
samples and got carbon-14 back, and I did drop that in the chat.
But you wouldn't do carbon
Some of
dating
them being
on dinosaur bones due to the age of the bones. So that
why?
would
Because they say there shouldn't be any. Like I've asked JA carbon dated the dinosaur bones you've worked. No, we don't do that. Why? Because there shouldn't be any there, so we don't do
saying about
that.
there
It's like,
shouldn't be.
can you do uranium lead on a young rock? No, we didn't.
It's not
Why?
that it
Because there
shouldn't.
shouldn't be any there. Because it would just mess up with their model. If you
It's not.
find it, it messes
It's
with
not
their
about
model.
shouldn't. It's not about shouldn't. But there's just better. There's better ways to date it. There's just better
Then
tools.
can we show one dinosaur bone being sent off and say that there's no carbon-14 present? That should be established.
I think that might be an experiment you could set up. I mean, you can see the massive amount of cost that would probably entail to get a result that has no finding that you could probably use. But that would be a way. That would be an endeavor that you could fund through Answers in Genesis. And if you're honest about your outcomes, I think you're probably going to find that it's a very unreliable method to date these things.
Well, that's the evidence they use. And then with the carbon dating of the dinosaur bones, there should be like a negative null value. So there should be like, okay, here's dinosaur bones. It has no carbon-14. We can establish as a baseline or negative control. So there's something called like a negative and positive control in research and experiments. So like we can have that one as a baseline negative control where there is no carbon-14 present, but apparently they just don't test it because there shouldn't. I guess they assume that there's none, but people have had reports on there being carbon-14. That should be questions.
Yeah, and I think the majority of those reports are due to contamination because there's other methods. That's why it's called radiometric dating, not just radiocarbon dating. So
I know. We
just
talked
use,
about this earlier.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I could say then that the lead found from uranium lead dating, like with the zirconium crystals that you brought up earlier, I could say, oh, that's just contamination, or any other old age is just contaminated. If you want to just write it off, I mean, you can do that with all dating methods.
How do you decontaminate lead, uranium?
Yeah.
Well, apparently they have found. Well, I don't know who's done uranium lead for young rocks, but
Yeah.
you should be able
thing
to
about it is
date
it's
a
easily
young rock and say that there is we should establish this method is viable by sending off young rocks and showing there is no lead present. You know what I mean? But I don't
Yeah,
know
the
where
thing
that's
about
ever been established.
NASA, it's not
Yeah,
an open floor.
what's that?
No, he can
Not an open
step
floor.
in. Eggs, please let him step in just for a little bit. I think he has a bit more science than I have right now.
No, I mean carbon is living carbon is easy to contaminate things in because every time you touch it, breathe on it, put anything on, you'll contaminate carbon. But lead, uranium, and unless you're carrying around a bunch of lead and inject it into the rock and write in the precise ratios, it's difficult to do. I'm just saying it's more
Well,
difficult.
then it should be easy to say take a young rock and say, oh, look, there's no lead isotopes. Look, it's an effective method. We can use it to differentiate
So
old and young and old rock.
show me a young
Same
rock.
thing with carbon. If you say from Mount St. Helens or from volcanic eruption, apparently it resets the isotopes for them to be molten, which is another topic in and of itself. This is their methods and their idea. This is the mainstream understanding. So yeah, they say that whenever basically lava, that would be young rock because isotopes are
Human lava?
Yeah,
reset
but they
within the
don't just
magma.
carbon dating. They do as you can see on Eggshell's screen. They do also uranium and potassium dating and other isotopes.
Uranium, potassium. You mean potassium argon or uranium lead? I never
Yeah,
heard of
uranium
uranium
lead is actually
potassium.
one of the most viable.
But I already went over this earlier. And uranium potassium is not a thing. It's uranium lead.
No,
but
uranium
they
or potassium.
earlier
So
I
the
established that you
Yeah,
have to
it's either
assume millions
uranium
of
that turns to
years.
lead
You
or
have to assume
potassium that
millions
turns
of
to argon.
years to even use the method. So we need one that can differentiate a young and old rock without already presuming. So we need to have a method that's reliable. And if we send off the sample, we'll know the age of it. It can differentiate young versus old without having to preemptively assume and process it with the underlying assumption. But that's the problem. That doesn't seem to exist. Does anybody have a method that
If you
exists
want to
with?
agree, if you want to argue against every form of axiomatic thinking or assumption or hypothesis and etc., I mean, you're just going to be arguing against all forms of reason. So, what reasoning is valid to you if no
give me one
axiom is
method.
valid?
No, I'll establish anything that's not biased that can accurately date young and earth and old rock. But Perfect Storm or NASA show. Can you give me one method of dating a sample where it can differentiate between 5,000 years and 5 million years reliably?
I don't know if anything's got that big a range.
Perfect Storm?
Probably cesium 137.
Okay, what's the range? What's the decay rate?
I mean, I don't exactly know. I mean, I could try and look some stuff up for you if you want.
Yeah. Because the problem is whenever you have to assume millions of years to even use the method, then you're already kind of baking in an assumption of the age. But we're supposed to be unbiased with these methods and determine value thousands versus
So
millions of
wait a
years.
minute. So how do you explain this then? Do you think that God created things to look old?
What I explain, how I would explain it, has no bearing on the evidence that's actually present.
You're just gonna say no to the evidence because you
That's
already
not the
assumed it.
argument. Do
That
you
is
know
the
what the
argument.
prompt is that we
Please
agreed to
tell me.
argue?
Well, just for
No.
potassium to argon, so you have potassium argon goes for about 100,000 years to billions.
Okay, so you have to assume 100,000 years. Young Earth creationists would not assume
You don't
that.
have to assume
And
shit.
why, whenever they, I can't, hold on. Why, whenever they dated Mount St. Helens rocks, did potassium argon give an age of like hundreds of thousands of years whenever we had the known eruption date? It's supposed to be a few decades old. Give you a paper.
Because the
Is this the one where
eruption pulls out material from the bowels, which are already old.
Exactly.
is
So
this
there's
one with
contamination
one where they
problems.
gave? Is this the one where they gave young rocks to?
NASA.
What?
We're not going to have the normal behavior here. What we're practicing in this room is engaging well, and being in this room means you're on board with that, and I need to see that from you, or we'll put you in another room.
Is this the
Like,
one
it's
where
just a
they
really
lied
rude
about?
way to interrupt somebody to swear at them. Like, you need to take the feedback. You need to learn. If you're not going to learn, you're in the wrong room, because this is a room where we're not even that interested in the age of the Earth. What we're mostly interested here is, how can I express myself more effectively? And if you're not on board with that game and developing yourself in that way, that's fine. You don't have to. I'd strongly recommend it, given how you typically engage, but you're not going to be just doing your standard thing in here. You're going to be learning a new thing or doing your standard thing elsewhere. Bish, we good?
So, can I ask if this is the one where they gave the new rocks to scientists and told them they were old rocks, and then when they came up with the results that is that the one?
They didn't tell him an age. That's the thing. They tried to just see if the method on its face value would work. Oh, here's the link. I found the link to the. Hold on, I have to send it to this account real
Vision
quick. I
tracking.
found the link to them carbon dating dinosaur bones, and this is multiple different results. I told you I would find it. I just had to open my computer. It's better at spotlight searching.
So also to answer Sage, the cesium-137 dating range and rate is pretty low. The half-life is 30 years, so it's not really the right reliable one. But like I said, there was potassium argon, but there's also the cosmogenic nuclides, which give 10,000 to several million years, which is very, very, very effective.
So
Then why, whenever they dated young rocks, did it come up to be hundreds of thousands of years old?
Because they weren't young rocks, they were old rocks from the bowels.
From the bowels?
Yeah, there were lava flows.
You know, the bowels of the earth.
The bowels. Okay, never heard that one. So they sent off a young rock of a known, like they knew the age of the eruption, and it came back to hundreds of thousands of years. And so the response is, oh, well,
It's
that's
not
just,
going to date
excess
the
argon
time of
being
the eruption.
exposed
It's
to the
going to
sample
date the
from like
time of the
contamination.
material.
I was still, I
Yeah.
was in like the dead middle of a sentence, bro.
Yeah,
and then
no,
they said
100%.
basically it's contamination. How we get around this is by using a step heating method to basically like burn off all the excess argon contamination from, the environment. But then that poses another issue of the fact that you need to know the age. You have to put in the known age or the assumed age of the rock to get the result of the age of the rock. So you have to already have preemptive assumptions when even using the method. That's the problem with these methods. You can't on their face just send out a rock and actually get the reliable age. Like with the uranium lead, which is what we used to say it's billions of years. You have to have its minimum half-life is 1 million years. So we have to assume 1 million years has even passed to even use the method. I haven't seen it used on a young rock.
So again, one, they're not going to test the age of the eruption. They're testing the age of the material that's being tested. So they can't tell you the age of the eruption. So if it was a recent eruption, that doesn't mean the material was born on the day of the eruption. That's not how it works. It tells you
Then
how
wouldn't
old
all
the
matter?
rock is. Again, I'm speaking here. And also, when you're saying that like they have to input like this assumption and so on, you're confusing things because maybe it's not an assumption, and maybe you could like do some research on the topic on what they have to input and how they get the result, and maybe you'll understand that there's no assumption, or maybe there's axiomatic thinking going on. But oh my God, valid reasoning should be condemned, right?
Are you done? Okay, so the axiomatic assumptions, that whatever the word, I don't even know. The problem with already putting in assumptions is that we need something on its face value that can test between young and old. And if you're saying, oh, it just tests for the material, not when the lava flow happened, not when the eruption happened, then why wouldn't everything date back to the age that matter itself formed, or that it formed in the star? Everything would be billions or trillions of years old, all of the matter in the world. But no, in the mainstream
Well,
model,
that's
they
just
say
for
that
that one.
magma and lava will actually like reset the age of the material. That's the
That's just for that.
mainstream view.
That's just for that one, right? So with carbon 14, that's things that are incorporated into the organism over its life.
Yeah,
And,
that's different. I mean, so that's carbon dating.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like every one of them, like there's different tools to use to find different dates. So it's like if I'm looking for argon and all these other things, I'm not going to be expecting to use that for something I find on this level of strata. If you tell me that there is a rock strata for the geographical column, the layer.
Yeah, I know. I just go ahead.
So, but if you tell me that there's a rock that just formed for Mount St. Helens eruption and stuff, and like you said, you get an argon test, you're going to get the result of the materials, not the result of the formation of the rock. You know what I mean? Same thing with carbon 14. You're getting the
Yes, I get
result
the
of the
carbon
formation
14
of that.
comment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
it's
I
the
get the
same
carbon.
thing.
Did you look at the paper I cited with the carbon 14, by the way, in the last one that I gave like a two links, and the last link was, let me see. I can't remember the name of the link. Just to look at the last link I sent you on the carbon 14 found in dinosaur bones. And like I said, if there was a, like the young Earth creationist models assumes instead of like a meteorite impact wiping out dinosaurs, they say it was a worldwide flood. And the strata layer would, that's another argument. We should go over one day the strata and the evidence for the flood, if there is evidence or not. But so they basically, if there was a worldwide flood, there's something called, and I can send you the paper on this published by Oxford, the reservoir effect, where things, biological, tissue left underwater, submerged underwater, actually appears older. So if there was a worldwide flood, then pre-flood things would appear older using carbon dating. I'm just mentioning that.
Okay, yes, and like I said, there's other methods to do marine animals, and that's a finding that basically says carbon dating is inefficient to use, even though within the framework of your understanding of when these organisms exist should be within its range, and it's telling why.
Well,
That's
marine,
the case.
everything would be a marine animal because everything is submerged. During the worldwide flood, everything would be. This is why we find, seashells on
Okay.
mountains. So the whole thing would be submerged.
So we did have a debate going about the evidence of that, and I've said to you multiple times there is no evidence, and even the evidence you're suggesting would not result in the reservoir effect being a thing.
Why?
Because the reservoir effect talks about the incorporation of those materials into the organism itself. These organisms are now dead, floating in the water. So
Doesn't matter.
it does.
It wouldn't matter. It would still apply. Usually, whenever they do carbon 14 dating on things that were submerged, they are dead. So how would that be a rebuttal?
No, it is. Like I said, look into that a bit more. Yeah, it is. It's a rebuttal.
How? Why would it not? Why would the reservoir effect not apply to a worldwide flood?
Because the things would not have been incorporating new carbon 14 and things like that in the same manner that the
Why?
reservoir effect, because they're not consuming things.
No, it doesn't have to consume it. The carbon would replace the carbon 12 would replace the carbon 14, which happens when things are submerged underwater. And that would definitely
Yes.
be occurring.
Yeah, but there would still be an amount of carbon 14 that was in there prior to that. That's what I'm saying. And
There would
then
still be carbon 14 that was there prior to that.
Even with the effects of the reservoir effect, you would find in these dinosaur bones or anything else that would have been, causing this flood, you would find those elements, and you don't do that. Using the reservoir effect to say that terrain animals, terrestrial animals, do not apply towards typical radiometric dating is not fair. Even because even within the global flood, 1 year of being underwater and all that other stuff would not have come, like these outcomes wouldn't have been the result.
I think it would. And also the amount of pressure and the amount of how much it was submerged would apply as well. I think the more pressure that's applied upon the tissue would maybe cause the exchange to happen faster. But I haven't read anything that you're suggesting is like, the reservoir effect takes a certain amount of time to happen.
It's a process. Any process takes time to occur.
Okay, well, how long does it take for it to apply?
You done, Taylor?
What? I'm having a conversation with Renee. How long does it take the reservoir effect to happen?
John, do you know the answer to that question? I'd let you answer if you want to. I'd love it. I don't know, but I know it takes time. I think it takes a period of time.
Did you read that or?
Yeah. Oh, I just understand that any process takes time.
Did you read it or you understand it?
That would be a axiom, I would say, of reality. But
opinion, or did you read that?
I said axiom. I said axiom, an axiom of reality.
What's an axiom of reality exactly?
I'm not sure.
That a process takes time.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I could agree with that.
Okay, so it says
non-contradiction is an axiom of reality too.
Okay, so I'm reading right here. A radio can occur as soon as the organism takes in carbon from a reservoir whose carbon-14 to carbon-12 ratio difference from the atmosphere. So that would happen immediately. Like the sedimentation, basically replacement of the biological tissue with the surrounding
I'm Taylor,
carbon.
and I know
That's just how
everything about
fossilization
every
happens.
topic.
What?
I know better than the experts.
He's cutting me
going
off.
on, Perfect Storm? What's going on, mate?
I just wanted to be funny for a second.
Well, you failed.
It's all good. Anyway, we can end it here, Renee, if you're good. Unless anybody else has something to say.
Yeah, let's land it. I'd love to.
No problem. Good talk.
Me too.
Good stuff.
Right.
So it scored that one a bit on the wrong side. Oh no, it still figured out what the sides are despite them displaying on the wrong side here. So that it's actually awarded to Taylor. Nice work.
Do they have a rate, a score, like a B, C?
It's not showing at the moment. Is it? Come on. Awaiting act boundary. Oh, we were just waiting to move on. So it'll just take a bit of time for it to work out that we're no longer in the debate. And then it delivers the score. Yeah, so what did that had some big questions on Reenie's side. Show contamination explains the carbon-14 reports. Show the base axiom is demonstrable without assume the orbital scale. This one got a bit confused. It really struggled to know when to switch to the stellar sun. It should have actually pulled some of these across to here. The math is confirmed physically. The probe was there. Start with the base axiom. Show the measurement doesn't assume scale. Oh, now it has flipped Taylor over. Nice. Now it's made another one. Oh, that one's starting out for Reenie. It's just catching up there. Yeah, but it's sort of said if fresh volcanic rock dates ancient, the method needs controls. I think that was a strong point, and I'm not sure where it was rebutted. I can't tell you the age of the eruption. Oh my God, what's just happened here? Where's that moved it? Where are you? Where have you gone? Oh my God. What's happened here? Oh, he's off. He's off. They're off and running. There's one crux running away. But yeah, can you give us a debate judgment on that, please, Sage? Judge that age of Earth debate, please.
Can she read it?
Sage. Yeah, she should do. It depends if she takes ages because I got rid of her axe, so she no longer just goes, "Oh yeah, I'm on it" or whatever. So yeah, see, this is still putting these in the wrong spot, but thankfully it's still scoring them. So good. Scoring ledger is working. I think Reenie's going to have to come back with receipts next time.
I dropped a few things in the chat. I don't know if check them out if you have time.
Is that what was requested by Sage as why I lost mass?
For not answering open questions. So here are some of them. Yeah, these will cost you a lot. Have a
Does
sort
she
of
read?
large-
I'm not.
What?
Are we supposed
So
to be
what were the
looking at
questions?
something?
Show contamination.
I'm sharing my screen.
Carbon 14 reports show the base axiom that actually demonstratable starting measurement that doesn't itself assume the orbital scale. I don't know how those. Oh, that's for Kepler's.
Yeah, so that it shouldn't be under that one. That's what I was saying. It still scored it correctly, but it displayed it under the wrong crux. So it internally should at least understand, oh, this is related to this and that's related to that. I need to double check that after this, but it said that's an important question, which I think is right. So it's given the thing. Narrow wind to be kind. She did not prove young Earth, and some of her reservoir effect and method range arguments were undercooked, but she identified the missing answer and pressed it better than the others supplied it. The crowd also heard itself with interruptions and mockery.
I didn't.
Yeah, because I kind of agree with. I definitely agree with Sage in this one, where if you say we've got a good idea about the age of the Earth because of the distance to distant stars, then the base axiom is in question. I think particularly if you're talking to somebody who thinks the Earth's flat, to say, because it could be as simple as I trust things are where I see them, and I trust that geometry accurately describes reality, or something like that. I think that might solve the base axiom question. Where what you'd said is we know Kepler's laws, and Taylor had given the valid rebuttal to that here, which is why his card's quite big. It's assuming orbital rotation.
So
okay,
I don't understand why that's a.
What does the talk
We're talking
fair,
about gravity.
side air, immediate? What do these things mean?
How much of the time you've talked? So that fills up as you talk.
9%.
Yeah, that's over the last 5 minutes. So most of that time I've been talking. It's probably since the debate's finished.
What's fair mean?
Fair is when there are different sides, each side getting about 50% talk time. So you should get 50%, whereas if Perfect Storm was speaking up and contributing a lot, they both need to make a combined total of 50%.
So who talked more? Probably me.
I think probably you.
And it says validate the claimed carbon-14 dinosaur samples against age limit or contamination.
Where does it say that? Yeah. So that was
what does that mean? Like validate
that's going to be a open question here.
There is no age limit or contamination, like things that we can like compare it to, because this would arguably happen to all samples. So unless we had a control running for this long, or we can actually see the environmental conditions, there would be no thing to compare it to in this sense. So that's actually a problem that I pointed out.
Did Sage see that as a problem, or did Sage see that as it wasn't answered? Because
She saw it took it against me, but I actually was kind of using that point. So it's kind of interesting.
Well,
like I don't know, it's but
I would probably say that it was traced back to you of why that's an issue, because within different radiometric dating methods, you take different assumptions.
What do you mean?
You make different assumptions for different radiometric dating methods.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. Like that, I think that shouldn't be done. Like
what you don't do is the uniformity of nature, the decay rate of a isotope, but you have to take in other factors for different methods, different tool for different things.
I'm sorry. We can maybe talk about it later, but I don't really understand what you're saying, to be honest.
I get that. I can understand why.
Do you want to repeat it? Like, because we just wouldn't have a baseline to compare it to, because in the young Earth creation model, everything would be flooded. And we have like worked with samples where we see if things are underwater, they actually appear older. Like we've actually saw this happen. So if there is things that appear older with carbon dating, there is potentially a reason why. If there was a flood, assuming a young Earth.
Precisely, you have to make a presupposition of a flood. So, assuming a flood, we've had this discussion, and we ended it on the heat problem. You have a massive problem with the amount of heat that this event that you pre-expose, if it happened, explaining where the heat went.
Here's what I propose. I reckon we can continue this discussion in the next room, but we've had a good session today. Good. What have we done? 3 hours.
And I want Renee to answer the problem of why there's graded beds in the strata. I thought we ended
You
there.
can have frozen water also.
Frozen water also. Graded beds and frozen water. I'm keen for it. Yeah, so the conversation will continue. We're just going to, because we're here, anybody watching on Riggs Worldwide Debates channel, and we'll just drop down into the other room for the sort of after show continuing to chat. So
Okay,
you'll restart a board and you can restart on the same topic or get into a complete shit fight or do whatever you want, because we're no longer doing the Sage thing. But last thoughts, feedback?
Thank you. Eggshells.
Most welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for, we've been keen for the Age of the Earth debate. I think it went well. I think you conducted it quite well too. I think that was it was a good win. I think I'm excited because I think that's going to really promote it to get Renee playing more, because I know what it's done for me when I've replayed some of my old debates. I'm like, oh shit, I got smashed. To watch the board, because that will help you score.
Well, I would disagree that I got smashed, but
we also learned some good terms.
Yeah, I don't think
Young Earth. I love this shit.
Yeah. Well, good on you, Taylor, on the win.
No problem. I'm not here to win. I'm just here to learn and share, discuss. All right, we'll head drop down.
I don't think you got smashed. I think I agree with the text-based one, which is it is a win, but a narrow win, because it jumped around a bit. I do think, I think it went quite well. It stayed on point. My map was all over the place, which is annoying.
You can demand any test you want, Taylor. You can demand this test, this magic test that will tell the rock, any rock, no matter what it is.
Well, we'll do that in the downstairs room. We'll get back into it in the downstairs room. But for now, we're just wrapping up. Any final thoughts or bags arguing?
He's gonna jump in if you ask for that.
Yeah, I know. What I mean is, so NASA, you're still welcome to speak up, but all we're doing is like wrapping up the show, talking how the interlocutors did, talking how Sage did, giving feedback to me on what could make it better, and then we'll wrap it, and then we'll go, and then
let's go talk about it down there.
Age of Earth.